And we are live. Welcome to the NFL DFS Pick'em Strategy Show, the first 30 minutes of 4 straight hours of NFL coverage on Week 17. We've only got one more week of the NFL regular season to go. It's going to feel sad. We've been doing this for so long. Think about how many weeks that is. We're talking 4 months. It happens so quickly. I'm Josh Engelman, by the way. You can see that on the screen. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engelman. Hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. What's going on, folks? It's good to see everybody here today. We got Liverpool on 12:15 taking on West Ham. I love having these days where Liverpool plays on an NFL Sunday. Gotta annoy you guys for like a brief second at the start while I talk about real football. But what we're looking for today could be just about anything. It doesn't have to be football, although we're going to take our best shot at it. But whether we get NBA, whether we get NFL, whether we get NHL, EPL, whatever we can find today, that's what we're going to be using for this Pick'em show, because we're going to try to build out some cards on PrizePicks, on Underdog, on Sleeper, on Betr, and we're going to use the OddsShopper Portfolio EV tool to do that. I'll hit you guys with this now so you guys have it. Schedule for the rest of this 4-hour block of coverage. I'll finish this one up at 9:30. Greg will pop in at 9:30. He's going to do some lineup building in our single lineup simulator. He's going to build out some lineups for you guys on DraftKings and FanDuel for another half hour and take you all the way up until 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, that's when you get the true goods. Not to undersell myself or Greg, but I know what you people want. You want breakdowns of the games for today, and you're going to get that in abundance. 10 to 11:30, you're getting Laffy and Ben, and they are going through every single game on this slate. If that's what you guys are looking for, and I think that it is, you don't want to miss that one. You want to make sure you're here at 10 o'clock. And then at 11:30, you get Eric and Makajeski taking you from 11:30 all the way until that 1 o'clock kickoff. I don't know what else you could possibly want to do on an NFL Sunday, but sit here on our stream and break it all down. It's 9 a.m. We're here till 1. Where else are you getting that good of content? Nowhere. Nowhere is the answer to that one. But for now, we need to find some pick'em plays. And the first thing that we do, and Jordan knows it too, we're going to OddsShopper, we're going to the Portfolio EV tool, and we're pulling up the Parlay Builder. I'm going to go ahead and pin my screen for Jordan's side so I can see it. We do have a decent chunk of value out there right now. Or sorry, when I said Parlay Builder, I meant Pick'em Optimizer. You can do the exact same thing for Sportsbooks with the Parlay Builder. We got a lot of value on PrizePicks right now, like a staggering amount of value. So the first thing that I want to do is going to be sport independent. I don't care at all what we're getting. I know this is an NFL show, but I want to lock in the heavy, heavy value right now that we have, because there is a hockey play with a 9.4% EV. So if I click the generate button, that'll put the 6 best plays for the day into our card. That's a 34% EV. Jordan, I'm pretty confident that's the highest we've had all year. So let's lock this one in. All you have to do is click that generate button. It fills your card. You click the bet now button. It immediately takes you to PrizePicks and has that entire card built for you. Then all you have to do is enter whatever you're putting on it. I'm going 40. I want to scoop up a cool $1,000 if we hit all 6 of these. And then you just simply click submit lineup. You can get that 6-pick card in 30 seconds, and that might even be long. And the thing that I could help you guys out with is that now that PrizePicks card that I just built is in chat for you guys. You can click that, head right to PrizePicks. It's loaded, and you could tail along with us. This is the I've talked about it every week now. I'm going to talk about it again. This is the awesome part about using OddsShopper and the Portfolio EV tool and doing it on a show like this, because we could all win together. This is not like DFS where we're all fighting for that same top spot. Everybody that wants to click this card right now can click it, place it, and sweat it as a group. And when it wins, we all win. We don't get less money because we're chopping it like we would in DFS. We just get the payout. And right now, a 34% projected EV, there's not a single thing you'll do today, not even close, nowhere, not an individual bet. There is nothing else you will build that has the expectation of returning more money to you than that PrizePicks card that we just built. But I don't want to just stop here. I want to build an NFL specific one because that's what we're here for. This is an NFL Sunday. So we're going to clear that one out on PrizePicks, and we're going to just scoop up the top 6 NFL plays. Now that's going to remove the huge NHL play that we had. There's going to be quite a bit of overlap here, but we're starting with Dorian Thompson-Robinson under 160 passing yards. We're getting less than 41.5 rushing yards. We got to make sure we use the proper terminology. Aaron Jones, more than 18.5 receiving yards. Brock Purdy, less than 4.5 rushing attempts. Saquon Barkley, his longest rush being north of 20.5 yards. And then finally, Bryce Young, total rushing yards, less than 18.5. That 6-pick card is 22% EV. So I'm going to click that going to click the bet now link, go directly to PrizePicks, load in my new card, and we're going to go ahead and grab what we need here. What is the payout here? 40 to win 1,000. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So now we have an NFL specific card. If you guys don't want to mess around with any NHL plays, we got one in the chat as well. Let's see. Did the Spidey bombs hit yesterday? Says, why doesn't that work with Betr? I get a Betr card and OddsShopper doesn't load it on my Betr app. I'm assuming it just has something to do with Betr itself. Maybe we don't have the ability to do that for them. I'm not sure. But while that's not as fast, you still have the plays, and we are going to build a better play. But we got PrizePicks in the books already. 2 awesome EVs. 22% NFL only, 34% by adding in that NHL play. I mean, this is as good as it gets, guys. We won't find value out there. I mean, even just using single bets to get a 22% EV play in the Portfolio EV tool, that's a lot. So I think we got an inside look at potentially a 25x payout. That's what you get if you go 6-0. 25x. Wouldn't that feel good today? I know I'd be pretty pumped about it. Let's see if we can get anything on Underdog. Now, we fail at this a lot. It feels like Underdog is the sharpest lines that exist. They don't have any boosts or bonuses on the site right now that I see. We do look like we have enough value here. Now, it's not going to be NFL specific, but we're going to get Achans less than 33.5 receiving yards. We're going to get Dorian Thompson-Robinson under the 160 passing yards again. Matt Lauder of Boise taking on Penn State on Tuesday. So this one's not going to pay out until Tuesday, but we're going to take this because it's a 2.3% EV. So that's our first 3. Jordan, if you can you switch to that power drop down on the top left-hand side to flex? Then we need 2 more. That's going to be Devin Vassell, less than 3.5 assists, and Dyson Daniels, less than 5.5 rebounds. That is a 14% EV card for Underdog. So we're going to click that button. It's going to immediately take us over to Underdog and unfortunately not load that card for us. So I see where you're coming from there, Spidey bombs, but we can enter them in pretty quick. They don't make it too hard. So I'm going to add HN, and that was, got to move my windows around so I can enter this a little bit easier. 33.5 receiving yards, less than. We get Dorian Thompson-Robinson, less than passing yards. We get Matt Lauder, receiving yards, less than 28.5. Devin Vassell to stay under 4 assists. And Dyson Daniels under 5.5 rebounds. Five pick card, 10x if you go 5-0, 2.5x if you go 4-1. Card is placed, link is grabbed, and shared in chat. So it's not just PrizePicks that you guys can come along for the ride with. You guys could load this Underdog card as well. Immediately click it, go straight to Underdog with the card built, and tail this exact same play, a 14% EV coming out of OddsShopper right now. So that's 3 cards that we've built in basically 5 minutes. I don't know what else anybody could possibly want. And you could be doing this every day, all day, if that's how you want to handle this, because the OddsShopper Portfolio EV tool is constantly changing. Every couple seconds, we're getting new lines in from other books, and our line is moving around and showing us a different amount of value. So you could make countless cards, especially with those PrizePicks values that we had. Maybe you don't want to go 6-pick cards. You can make a lot of 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-pick combinations if you want to. Really bring down any of your variance by firing more bullets instead of one really big bullet. And that is what I would recommend for you guys if you're using this tool. If you're not using this tool right now, there are ways to get it, but I do have something else that we should talk about you signing up for, and that's the Celebrate promo. And that's going to be on the DFS side for Stokastic. We've had a couple milli winners so far this year. I'm sure you guys are aware of it. If you're here, you're probably watching our NFL coverage pretty regularly. But for now, because of our most recent milli winner, we've locked in the deal all the way through Super Bowl Sunday. If you use the promo code CELEBRATE, if you click the link in chat or the one that's in the description of this video, you get our entire NFL DFS max package for $179, and this will take you all the way to the Super Bowl. You won't pay anything again for the NFL. That's going to get you projections. It's going to get you ownership. It's going to get you our top stacks tool and some of our optimal rates. It'll get you our entire Sims package. So contest generator, single lineup simulator, our full simulation package. If you're playing like 150 lineups, that's the one you're looking for. Our post-contest Sims, which helps you to go back and look and see the decisions you made, some of the better plays ultimately in that contest, maybe some things that you could fix or try to change as you move forward. You get all of this, and it's for main slates and turbo slates, showdowns, which are going to be plentiful as we start getting into the playoffs. That's save nothing for like Monday Night Football. I don't know if there's Thursday Night Football for the final week of the season. I don't think there is, but I'm not entirely sure. Whatever slate you're looking for, single games or not, we have that covered in the sim tools as well. So if you've ever wanted to come in and check out the NFL product, you can get it right now for today, for your entire main slate, for Sunday Night Football, for tomorrow, for next week, for everything. $179 using the promo code CELEBRATE. Alrighty, we got PrizePicks done. We've got Underdog done. Let's check out and see if we could do anything on Sleeper. And based on what I'm seeing now, the answer seems like a resounding no. And I would be correct. Negative 2% EV on the 5 best plays available on Sleeper. We only have 2 plays on Sleeper that grade out as positive EV options. Grant Calcaterra is a 1.5% EV. Alexander Madison is at 0.1%. Every other available play on Sleeper at this moment is negative. So unfortunately, if you're a Sleeper person today, I can't help you out. I don't have a card that we can build, which leaves us to the final play. Shout out to Spidey Bombs in chat. We're going to be able to go to Betr. And if I'm reading that correctly, this is going to be a preposterous EV. We thought we had a big one on PrizePicks. We just got it even bigger on Betr. 39% EV to the top 5 plays because of a massive Naz Reid 13.4% EV option. Now, we can't show Betr on the screen because it's mobile only, but I'm going to lock these in and drop that link into chat. So we're going to get Naz Reid, and that's going to be less than 5.5 rebounds. We're going to get Jason Tatum, trying to hit the NBA ones first, less than 10.5 boards. Then we're going to go to the NHL side. We're going to get this French cat for less than 2.5 shots on goal. La Ferriere. That's probably what it is, right? I think I got that. I don't know hockey names, man. Come on. Going back to the well on Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Now, this one's less than 164 passing yards, so we're actually getting a slightly better line on Betr. See what I did there? And then Trey Tucker, over 23.5 receiving yards. Those 5 plays get added to Betr. It's the same payout structure that you get on Underdog. 10x for a 5-0 card, 2.5x if you go 4-1. And we are getting 39% EV on this play. Even bigger than PrizePicks. Now I'm going to copy this link. Spidey Bombs. If you want to tail it, since Spidey Bombs, I think you're looking for this one. There's the link right there. You should be able to click that link and immediately go right to Betr on your phone with that loaded. And if you do that, you're locking in a 39% EV option. 13.4% on Nas Reed. That's one of the bigger numbers you're ever going to see on one of these pick'em sites. So try to get that quickly because I've got a sneaky suspicion that Nas Reed line is going to move in the near future. I think it's going to have to. So we've locked in 2 PrizePicks cards. We've locked in Underdog. We've locked in Betr. I kind of want to take a peek to see if we can build something else. I'm going to hop on over to DraftKings Sportsbook. I know we're normally taking a peek at pick'em sites. I want to see if DK Sportsbook has any interesting promos for today. Jordan, perfect. I'm glad you pulled that up on the parlay builder. I got to wait till I get my text message code. There it is. Not going to read those numbers out loud. Don't need anybody sneaking into my account on the sly. So we do have a couple interesting promos that can be used on DraftKings Sportsbook. They have a 20% same game parlay boost for tonight's Sunday night football game. Not necessarily as big as I would like it to be. We've got an NFL touchdown parlay boost. If you put together 4 legs of anytime touchdown scores, you get a bit of a boost. So we could do 4 legs and get 25% bump there. That's something that I think we can maybe take a look at. I thought we were going to have a little bit more here. They have live plays for NBA and NFL. So if you're a live bettor, don't sleep on these types of promos that exist. Because if you're going to fire off these bets, why not try to lock in an extra 10, 15, 20% profit if you can? I think we should build a parlay boost for anytime touchdowns for today. Now, I'm assuming we don't have any value on these right now, and we're going to have to wing it. So I'm going to go to you guys, and I'm going to place this card. So chat. Here's what we need, chat. Who's scoring touchdowns today? Give me some guys that you think are going to be scoring touchdowns for today. Because we can get a 25% boost on parlaying 4 of them. And I think that would be kind of fun. So hit me with your best shots, guys. Gary Nixon says Mike Evans. Okay. Mike Evans right now, anytime touchdown scorer on DraftKings is minus 120. We got Downs, Jonathan Taylor, BTJ and Spears, Devontae Adams. Okay. So now that's 2 Brian Thomases, 2 Spears. Paul says DTR. Vito Power says Bucky Irving. Calvin Ridley, Adams, Saquon. If you guys start doubling up on some of these names, they're going to be the ones that I grab. So I'm going to grab Brian Thomas. I'm going to grab Spears. So we're going 2 guys in the same game here. Anybody else getting doubled up on this one now? Adams is in there twice. Evans is in there twice. Taylor has been said twice. Let's grab Jonathan Taylor. That one will at least make me feel a little bit better. That might be too long of odds. We'll see in a second. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, let's grab the Evans one. Let's see what that ends up looking like. Yeah, I didn't grab these correctly. I added them all to my card the wrong way, which is never helpful. Through the leg. Minimum odds are minus 200. So that was what my problem was. I had one in there that was minus 210, unfortunately. So they have to be minus 200 if you want to grab these TD scores. So we can get Spears, we can get Brian Thomas, we can get Evans. We need a fourth. I'm trying to scan the list to see who's getting said the most here. A lot of Barkleys. A lot of Barkleys, but he's at minus 210, so we can't use him. Don't get me wrong. I like Barkley in this one as well, too. But we can't use him to get the 25% boost. I feel good with Spears. A lot of you guys like that one. Was Taylor 210 as well? Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's 210 as well, so we can't use that one. We did get a couple Adams. What's Adams sitting at? Adams is at plus 150. Okay. So that will give us our four. That would be Tyjae Spears, Brian Thomas, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams. Four separate plays. And we're getting a parlay boost of 25%. Now, you can only put down 10 bucks. But to grab that profit boost, have a fun sweat on an NFL Sunday, I don't hate that idea. I don't hate that idea. So chat, we'll come together. We'll use our collective knowledge. And you can put together a four-leg anytime touchdown parlay on DraftKings and get a boost. If you're on other sports books, you should be paying attention to every one of these promos that pop up, particularly on days like this. They're all trying to give out free money. Whether it's DraftKings, whether it's FanDuel or Bet365 or BetMGM or Caesars or ESPN, whatever you're looking for. If you're in Florida, you've got one option. This is the way to do it. Because every one of those sports books is going to have deals like this every day, where at the very least, you're going to be getting a little bit of bump to your EV. A four-leg parlay is not going to be hitting all that frequently. We're talking about needing to win basically worse than 4 coin flips, but we're getting a 25% bump to do it. And it's only going to cost us 10 bucks. But you might have free plays or protected plays. Those should get used no matter what. There's no downside. One side you win profit, the other side you just get it back. Those are the situations you should take over as much as possible. Not just on NFL Sundays, but every single day. There's promo money to be found constantly. Leaving that on the table only hurts you. It only hurts you. Sportsbooks don't want you to use it. They do want to get you hooked and all. But you could be taking advantage of positive EV plays that can get a little extra. And that's part of what we use OddsShopper for. Because we have all of this data available for us. We can evaluate odds boost to see if that boost is worth it on a particular parlay. You can go to our ARB table if you want and try to find some situations where you could lock in guaranteed profit. Now, that might not be your favorite option in the world. You know, if you're a $10 bettor, you're not able to really lock in a ton in ARB situations. Like the best ARB that we have right now is like a 43% or a 43-cent profit on a $10 bet. But we have an ARB tool here, if that's something that you guys would ever want to be using. The Portfolio EV tool is exceptional. We've redone all of our notifications that get sent mobily, so you can set up your own portfolio and then get immediate notifications whenever any bets match whatever you built for that portfolio, and it just pops up on your phone. You click that button once, you're immediately going to exactly where you want to be, and you can place that bet very, very quickly. These are some of the features you could use for OddsShopper, and you can sign up for it using the link in the description. We're going to hit something big here today, folks. It didn't go well last week. I think we went 1-5 on our PrizePicks card, and there was a lot of overlap, so I don't think that it went as well on Underdog or Betr as well, but I think I said as well in that sentence twice. That's a very clear sign that it's 9:30 in the morning, that I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and that I have not had a coffee yet, because words are difficult. Luckily, you can get some better words coming up next. Greg Ehrenberg will be here in a minute or two, and he's going to do everything that you guys actually want to do, which is build lineups for Sunday's football. It's week 17. You only get one more regular season week out of this one, but Greg is going to be here building out lineups in the greatest tool we have on the DFS side, the single lineup simulator. If you're a one lineup or two lineup or three lineup type person, you can build them by hand and then simulate them against a contest pool and get ROI, win rate, cash rate. You get all of that additional data that you don't normally have when you're building a lineup manually. And if you see something that doesn't work, swap out two players, test it again. It's the best place to build a lineup. Just a single, I want to pick every player. There's no better way to do that than using our tool. So good luck, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Say hi to Greg for me.
Yeah, man. It's very weird. Good morning, everybody, and it is time to start talking about the NFL DFS slate today, and we are on the eve of the final slate of the regular season, and just the way games are spread out this week, smaller main slate, only 8 games on DraftKings, 9 games on FanDuel, because they still include the primetime game. So we're going to build some lineups here. We're going to look at the initial ownership as well as player projections. And the only thing I ask of you guys is do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is free content, and that is the easiest way to support is just those couple clicks of the button. Taking 2 seconds out of your day to do that does help us a whole bunch in the YouTube algorithm. And before we get any further, if you guys do have a question for me, you can leave a super chat in the YouTube, or if you're a Stokastic sub, and one of the perks of having any package at Stokastic, you get access to our Discord channel. Tag me over the course of the show. I'll be on the lookout for any messages we get there so I could address and answer those during the show here. But let's get to it. You know what to do, Jordan. Pull up the projections, and let's start by looking at the quarterbacks. And this is going to be a quarterback slate. Well, actually, kind of across the board, there are some cheap players that are projecting quite well for this slate. And you'll see this at the quarterback position too, because we only have 3 QBs that have a projection of even more than 18 fantasy points. It's 3 that are over 20. And you got Josh Allen. He's expensive at $8,500 going up against the Jets. He leads the way with a 21.85 fantasy point projection. But behind him, we've got 2 quarterbacks who are more on the cheap side that are projecting for more than 20 fantasy points. And usually the guys who have this kind of a projection, we're talking about the, Lamar Jackson type quarterbacks or the Josh Allens, which he is. And it's usually the guys who are like in the 7 to 8K range, but Sam Darnold projecting for about 20.5 fantasy points at $6,400. That's going to have him really popular for this slate. And then Baker Mayfield at $6,900, also projecting for just over 20 fantasy points. This is a very, very important, close to a must-win game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Actually might be a must-win game for them taking on the Carolina Panthers. So I expect them to be absolute pedal to the metal right out of the gate here. And Baker Mayfield over 20 fantasy points in a good matchup where I don't think we're going to see too much risk of starters getting pulled late in that game or anything like that. As far as the ownership at the quarterback position, no real surprises. Those 2 guys we just talked about at relatively modest price points and projecting really well. Those are the chalk options on the slate. You got Sam Darnold. He's pulling over 20% ownership, 21% just about. And then Baker Mayfield, he is at 13.5% ownership. No other QBs north of 10%. And then some cheap quarterbacks behind there, like Mason Rudolph at 5K. He's pulling 9% ownership. So let's look at the running backs next, Jordan. And at running back, there is no Jalen Hurts today for the Eagles. As a result, expect to run the ball a little bit more. We got Saquon Barkley. He's projecting for 25.5 fantasy points. Pretty big gap between him and everybody else. The next best projected running back, it is Bucky Irving, and that same good matchup that Baker Mayfield is in. He's projected for 20.5 fantasy points. So 4 fantasy points behind Saquon Barkley. He's going to be really popular. And those are probably your 2 running backs you want to be playing in cash games today, Saquon Barkley and Bucky Irving. Then you got Jonathan Taylor at $7,900. He had a massive game last week and barely even played the 4th quarter. Still goes over 200 yards, multiple touchdowns in that game. Then you got Aaron Jones, Devon Achane, Tajay Spears. That's going to be another important one. No Tony Pollard. And we've seen Spears be really involved in the passing game this season, but not as much in the run game as Tony Pollard's really been the go-to guy there. But with him out of the mix, I do expect a bulk of the workload to go to Spears. So he's another chalk running back here, project for just over 17 fantasy points at $5,400. So if we sort by the ownership, a lot of popularity at the running back position. I think a lot of lineups today, it's going to be 3 running backs, meaning 2 running backs in the running back spots and then running back in the flex as well. Because Bucky Irving, 40% owned. Tajay Spears right around 40% owned. You got Saquon Barkley, 35.5% owned. Aaron Jones, 31% owned. And then Jonathan Taylor, which usually we see a bump in ownership for players who just absolutely crushed the week before. But considering there's so much value at the running back spot, and Jonathan Taylor is still pretty popular at 20% projected ownership here, but I'm not sure that I'm going to expect him to get the same kind of previous week bump that we've seen, just because 20% already a fair ownership number. And then there's so many other good running back plays to roster. But either way, good matchup for Jonathan Taylor. He's another one fairly popular today, taking on the Giants. No other running backs really meaningfully owned, but those 5 guys, all pretty strong options in my opinion. Wide receiver next. And at wide receiver, we also have some pretty good payups at wide receiver. Usually the top end running backs project much better than the top end wide receivers. And while Saquon Barkley does project a few fantasy points better than Mike Evans and Justin Jefferson, these guys are still over 20 fantasy points and look like really strong options, also going to be popular. So Mike Evans at $7,500, He's projected for right around 21 fantasy points. Same with Justin Jefferson at $8,300. The next best projected wide receivers, Brian Thomas, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Malik Neighbors, and then one option here to save salary with as well. Josh Downs, just $4,800 taking on the Giants. He is somebody who looks like a top points per dollar play at the wide receiver position, 15 fantasy points at a $4,800 price tag. And then the ownership here, quite a few popular wide receivers, which we have not seen for a few weeks. Usually we've seen a lot of chalk at running back, and then you go look at wide receivers, and a lot of these recent slates, there haven't been wide receivers projected for more than 15 or 16% ownership. But we've got Downs 31% on. We got Mike Evans 29%, Jefferson 26%, Brian Thomas 25%, Dontavian Wicks 21%, with Christian Watson not expected to play. So this is a wide receiver position loaded with good options. Even though we've only got an 8-game slate here, or 9 games on FanDuel, there are enough players out at this point in the season where it is creating a ton of value, even for a smaller slate here. So it should be a fun one from that standpoint. And then finally, the tight end position, Jordan. And at tight end, Brock Bowers by a mile leading the way, nearly double the fantasy point projection of anybody else at the position, 18.5 fantasy points. The rest of the tight ends over 10 fantasy points. TJ Hawkinson, Jake Ferguson, Dalton Kincaid, and Chigakonkwo. All of these guys, $3,600 to $4,500. They're all certainly acceptable options to save some salary with at the tight end spot. If you have the salary to get up to him, Brock Bowers is going to be the guy, though, and also the one I think you guys should be playing in cash games. If we go and look at the ownership at the position, Brock Bowers leading the way, 23% ownership projection. Then you got just under 20% for Jake Ferguson, 16.72% for TJ Hawkinson, and then Chigakonkwo at 12.32%. So now, with all of that information known, let's start building some lineups based on some of these projections and what it is that we are liking for the slate. And looks like there are no super chats right now and no questions from Discord either. So I'll just start by building a DraftKings lineup that I like, and I'll do one chalkier lineup and then one more contrarian lineup. If I'm going to be rostering one of the chalk QBs, I do slightly prefer Baker Mayfield to Sam Darnold. And it's not that I have an issue with Darnold or anything like that, but the nearly 21% projected ownership, if that holds, fairly high for a quarterback. And then also, I really think that onslaught stacks could position themselves well for the Buccaneers. I think this is a game where they could potentially just totally blow out the Panthers and leave the starters in all the way through the fourth quarter here. So let's start with the Baker Mayfield stack, Jordan. And as far as stacking partners with him, there's a number of different ways that we could go. Mike Evans is going to be the predominant one we want to consider. I also like getting Bucky Irving into some of those lineups. And then at tight end too, you've got a guy here in Payne Durham who has basically stepped into Cade Otton's role now with Cade Otton being injured. It doesn't look like Cade Otton is expected to return anytime soon. So Payne Durham at $2,900, he is another viable option for some of these stacks. But let's keep it simple for now. Let's go Bucky Irving and Mike Evans as a double stack with Baker Mayfield. All right, and this is going to be an onslaught stack. So no, actually, let's do add Payne Durham in as well. And then we won't do a run back. So we'll do a triple stack here of Baker Mayfield. All right, now at defense, let's see. What looks good at defense for this slate? What's cheap? Let's go to there's a number of cheap defenses that come out looking pretty good here. Just plug in the Titans at $2,800 against the Jaguars. Just running lineups through the Sims. Here's a handful of cheap defenses that showed up in some lineups. The Giants defense, Titans defense, Packers defense, Raiders defense is another one. Cowboys defense with Jalen Hurts being out. So handful of cheap defenses that I was getting in 10+% of lineups here. So a lot of different ways that you could be going in my defense exposure really spread out today. So that gives us pretty good amount of salary left here, right, Jordan? All right, $5,800. At wide receiver, boy, there are some cheap wideouts I like. Put Josh Downs into one of these spots. So we'll go to Downs at $4,800. And then at running back, go to Spears at $5,400. Gets us a little bit of correlation with the Titans defense. All right, so $6,500 for a wide receiver and a flex spot. So let's see. One of these wide receiver spots. Let's go to. Boy, there's a lot of guys to consider. We got Malik Neighbors, Jacoby Myers. We could go to an expensive guy in Jefferson. Let's try. All right, yeah, let's try going to Justin Jefferson and then seeing if there's somebody good that we could fit in the flex spot for a little bit cheaper. 4,700. Who projects best for 4,700, Jordan? Who's second best? Because we already have Josh Downs. All right, we've got Jefferson in the lineup. Take Jefferson out. Let's try Barkley in the flex. And then if we have Barkley in the flex, maybe there's a cheaper wide receiver who looks a little bit better. What do we have? 4,400? Okay. And then let's just upgrade the defense. Whichever defense projects best with the remaining salary. Cool. Dolphins defense, no issues with that. Dorian Thompson, I mean, it might be the Browns have put together one of the worst collections of quarterbacks that we've ever seen this year. It's been really impressive, and somehow they're like progressively getting worse towards the end of the season now. But anyway, yeah, this lineup ended up looking pretty good. 106.8% sim ROI. And let's go and build a little bit more of a contrarian stack now. So that was a popular stack, but here there are ways that I like to get a little bit contrarian on the slate as well. One of it, I know this guy was terrible when he started earlier in the year with Tua out, but Tyler Huntley has some rushing upside. He's only pulling 5% ownership and he's 4K. I think it's interesting, especially with this only being an 8-game slate for DraftKings, 9-game slate for FanDuel, is to play some naked Tyler Huntley lineups. I noticed I was getting a handful of them showing up towards the top of my sim ROI lineups when I was running the pre-contest sims. And Tyler Huntley at 4K, if you could just get him to throw for 150 yards, maybe as a touchdown, he rushes for another 50, 60 yards. I think there's a real path for him to put up a value game and get himself to. We have him project for 14.38 fantasy points. Not bad at the flat min here. This is going to be a way that I like as a contrarian build. Some Tyler Huntley naked lineups. You could also go to Tyler Huntley with maybe Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill is going to be playing today. He's expected to be active now, but I really like naked Tyler Huntley lineup. So let's try this out, and then we could get really expensive at other spots. So at running back, let's go to Barkley and Irving. Okay, Barkley and Irving. And then at wide receiver, just because we didn't play him in the last one, let's go to Dontavian Wicks. And then let's also go Justin Jefferson. All right, so 46, and now plug in Downs at 4,800. Just because he's one of the better values. Defense, just go plug in the Giants defense at 2,300, Jordan. I just want to make a fun superstars and scrubs lineup here. All right, tight end and a flex spot left. At tight end, yeah, I'm trying to think if we could fit in Bowers here. Let's if we go Bowers, let's see who is the best projected flex. All right, yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's the same price tag as what we had before. So let's take Bowers out. And instead of Bowers, let's go cheaper. Let's go Jake Ferguson at $3,700 at tight end. All right, and then who projects best? Okay, I don't mind that. We go to Mike Evans. I don't, just because it's such a good situation for the Buccaneers, Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, I don't mind them being in the same lineup, even if it doesn't have Baker Mayfield in it. But I think just based on projection, I know there isn't a mass amount of correlation to this lineup. I think it's going to sim out really well, though. Maybe I'll be wrong. All right, about the same, almost the exact same number as the last one, but still completely different build of a lineup, but you're going pretty contrarian at quarterback, not making a stack there. And that is one that ended up with a pretty decent sim ROI there. So that is something that I'm going to be building some lineups like that. And I don't think a lot of the field is going to. I see Fistula Poop in the chat says liking naked Tyler is crazy. I know that he sucked earlier this year, but in the past, Tyler Huntley, once again, has never been, although he was a Pro Bowler one year, if I'm not mistaken, he's really never been great, but he has been a pretty good fantasy player in the past. So if we go and look at his games this year, once again, dog shit when Tua was out. But let's see. Last starts, when was it 20? Yeah, here it was. All right, 2022. So 2 years ago, we had Lamar Jackson was out, and Tyler Huntley had to start a handful of games for the Baltimore Ravens. And he was at least competent enough. If you guys remember, there was actual people who thought the Ravens would be better off with Huntley as their quarterback going forward than they would be with Lamar Jackson. He started a playoff game against the Bengals. Yeah, this is the year he ended up making the Pro Bowl too. And they didn't win the game, but Tyler Huntley in a playoff game had 54 rushing yards. He threw for 226 yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns. And if you look at his regular season games, he was pretty regularly 6 to like 12 rushing attempts per game with his ability to run the football. Like, he was a decent fantasy option. When you're getting him for min price, I think there's a little bit of an upside here. So only for fantasy purposes, like, I don't think he's any good at all in real life, but for DFS, just because he's a really cheap quarterback with rushing upside, it's of some interest to me. Let's go and build some FanDuel lineups now, because we went and looked at DraftKings. So let's give some attention to FanDuel as well. All right, so FanDuel side of things, let's see what's looking good for my FanDuel lineups so we could build some lineups around. All right, quarterbacks. Who have we not built a lineup with yet? Let's go to Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, also popular on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings. A little bit less popular on FanDuel, though. 17.5% projected ownership as opposed to the 21% ownership. I'm right about in line with the field on Sam Darnold over on FanDuel. And then as far as stacking partners with Sam Darnold, let's see. Justin Jefferson. Let's go with Jefferson and Hawkinson. So Jefferson, we'll go Hawkinson. And then running backs for FanDuel. Tajay Spears, super, super cheap at $5,800. You got Bucky Irving, much more expensive on FanDuel. He is $8,000. So a little bit of a different makeup of the running back position over on FanDuel. But Spears at $5,800, I think points per dollar, he is the top guy to be going to. And let's see. What do we want to do with the other spot? We could go Bucky Irving. Barkley's $9,600. If we need to go a little bit cheaper, Jonathan Taylor's $8,400. Let's go to Taylor. We'll play Taylor in this lineup as opposed to Josh Downs or a cheaper wide receiver from the Colts. So we'll see how this ends up looking. If we have the salary to spend up for Barkley, we could turn Taylor into Barkley afterwards. But then wide receivers for FanDuel. Let's see. Do we want to run back from Green Bay? I think we do. Let's go to Dontavian Wicks at $5,200. By the way, I get overweight to all 3 of the Green Bay wide receivers over on FanDuel. Doubs, Reed, Wicks, all of them look like pretty solid options. Wicks one that shows up the most, though. So we got Wicks in here. Let's plug in a defense so we know where we are at for that. And cheapest viable defense on FanDuel. Let's go Raiders at $3,200. Taking on Spencer Rattler and what's ever left of the Saints at this point. And that gives us still a shit ton of salary, does it not? All right, $7,500. We could still probably get to Barkley here. We would just have to go to mid-range price wide receiver, and we'd be able to fit him. Let's see. If we went to... Let's see. Do I have interest in Coker? I don't hate that. Yeah, let's do that. Coker only $5,100. He's not my favorite wideout or anything like that, but as a last man in, I think that's reasonable. Let's see how this looks as a game stack. 91%. All right, a lot of lineups looking good. Nothing outrageously high for sim ROI, but a lot of them in the same, like around 100% range. But another good-looking FanDuel lineup here, and this is one where we built more of a game stack. Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers. Should be one of the better games of the day. Vito Power says, good morning. Appreciate your content. This is a DraftKings lineup he wants us to run. It is Aaron Rodgers with Saquon Barkley, Tajay Spears, Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, Garrett Wilson. So double stack here with Aaron Rodgers, Jake Ferguson, Josh Downs, and then the Eagles defense. First glance, I think this lineup is probably going to sim out fairly well. I don't see any glaring issues with it. It's got a nice correlated double stack as well. So let's see what this looks like. Should be a little bit contrarian as well. Our ownership projection on Aaron Rodgers is, let's see, Rodgers projected for 2% ownership. Not the best looking value quarterback on the slate, but not totally terrible either. Basically the same projection on Aaron Rodgers as we had on Tyler Huntley, but Rodgers being a little bit more expensive. But obviously there's more stacks to be made with Aaron Rodgers here. Let's see. I think it'll be solid. Yeah, 49.5% sim ROI. So no issues with that at all, veto power. I think there's a little bit of a ceiling, at least in our sim ROI, with what we could create with an Aaron Rodgers lineup, but that's good. I think you're good to roll that one out there. And let's go back to FanDuel, Jordan. I want to build one more FanDuel lineup. I'll do same way I did a Tyler Huntley lineup to try to be a little bit contrarian on DraftKings. Let's try to build a more contrarian FanDuel lineup with one of the lower owned QBs. So lower owned QBs that I'm getting to on FanDuel. One of them is Jordan Love. He's only pulling 7% ownership. But with that said, we already made the Sam Darnold lineup, so maybe it would be a little bit, whatever. Let's do it. It's going to be kind of similar, but we could make this really heavy on the Green Bay side, and we can make the run back Aaron Jones at $7,400. So that would be different than the Vikings pass catchers. And then wide receivers, let's go Jaden Reed at $6,700 with Dontavian Wicks. Yeah. Jordan Love at quarterback. And then we're going to stack him with Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed. All right. Now go Tajay Spears at running back as well at $5,800. Just really hard for me to get away from Spears, especially hand building lineups at $5,800. Like if I was hand building 4 or 5 lineups on FanDuel, I would be really inclined to put Tajay Spears into all of them at that price point. All right. Defense, go back to plugging in the Raiders D. Yeah, this is going to give us a good amount of salary. So a tight end, we could go to Brock Bowers at $7,600. Okay, now a wide receiver. What do we have there? 80. What's that number, Jordan? 8150. Okay, so we are going to, let's see, running backs. Put Barkley in the flex. And then who projects best with what's left there? Josh Downs again. All right, so if we go Downs, what does that give us for remaining salary? 600. Okay, so we could turn Aaron Jones into Bucky Irving. I know we lose some of the game stack there, but just from a projection standpoint, that'll make it sim out better because Bucky Irving we've projected for 3 more fantasy points than Aaron Jones. Another thing we could have done here is instead of Barkley at the flex, we could have gone to Justin Jefferson at wide receiver and then just plugged in at the flex. There we go. This one actually ended up looking like our best one so far, 144.6% sim ROI, and a little bit more of a contrarian way to get exposure to the Green Bay Packers defense. So that ends up looking pretty nice there. And let me double check to make sure that there were... All right, Jake asked, is Penix a good value on FanDuel? So my top lineups, I hardly get to any of Penix. He's $6,600 on FanDuel this week. There's just other places I prefer to go with the quarterback position. Like I'd rather play Aiden O'Connell at a similar price point. I'd rather play Tyler Huntley for $600 cheaper. I'd rather go to Bryce Young at $7,100 or spend up to Sam Darnold, maybe even save salary with Joe Flacco. Michael Penix on the road against the Washington Commanders. There's other guys I prefer to roster this week. One final super chat came in here, Jordan. This is from Michael Wynn. So let's plug in Michael's lineup before we finish up here. Also, Horn Doggy says, can we get some clarification on the Jaguars weather? Yeah, look it up right now. All right. The latest on the Jaguars weather. All right. First thing I Googled, it says that rain is expected. Jacksonville weather. Yeah, just plug in that lineup the Michael Wynn left for us while I look this up. Well, it said earlier that it was supposed to rain, or at least earlier in the week. Yeah, around game time, it looks like it's going to rain, but I don't think this is anything too problematic. Just rain, supposed to be warm, 11-mile-per-hour winds. So I don't think this is anything that should cause us to like rearrange our DFS lineups or anything like that. Michael Wynn here is going with Mason Rudolph, Saquon Barkley, Devon Achane. He's got Calvin Ridley, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman, Chigakonkwo, TJ Hawkinson, Bills defense. Then he has $200 extra, upgrade Pittman to Downs. Yes, you should upgrade Pitt. Do that right now, actually, Jordan. Go Downs instead. Yeah. Downs comes out looking better in our data. Both of them look like good options, but Downs more so than Michael Pittman. And all right, not perfect, but 11.5% sim ROI, which that's serviceable. One thing that we could definitely do to improve this is if we were to, instead of Achane, if we were to do something like maybe Bucky Irving and then upgrade one of the wide receivers, like maybe turn Calvin Ridley, or not Calvin Ridley, Neighbors into somebody else that end up coming a little bit better. But one more lineup here from Eat My Shorts, and then we will turn this over to the deep dive, guys. By the way, if you guys want to sign up for these tools that we're playing around with here, you get free access to it if you sign up with any of our affiliate partners. There's a link down below in the YouTube description box. You can also just look at the link in the YouTube description box and go right to our site and sign up for any package of your choosing. But if you're interested in getting these tools for free, as well as access to our sims, player projections, ownership projections, sign up for any of these books on screen right now. And for each one you sign up for, one free month of a core package to the sport of your choosing. So take advantage of that offer. We don't know how long it's going to be around. We're planning for it to be around as long as possible, but you never know. So go and check out any of those sites if you're looking for a free month of core access. Eat My Shorts lineup. He's going with Josh Allen. He's got Saquon Barkley. He's got Bucky Irving, Josh Downs. He's got Dontavian. Boy, this is another real stars and scrubs lineups. And then Josh Chapman said all their games have bad weather. Jacksonville games, are you saying? Or just all the games have bad weather? All their games have bad offense, the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's been something that's happened this year. 30.1% sim ROI. So yeah, this lineup also looks pretty serviceable. It's hard to build lineups with Josh Allen that are stacks just because I don't really know who's going to be his primary guy to go to. And there's so many weapons there between James Cook, Amari Cooper now, Khalil Shakur. So if I'm going to play Josh Downs, I am most inclined to do it naked. I don't think I'm going to get a ton of exposure to him, but if you are, that's the way you do it, is you go really cheap at the wide receiver position, and you could fit him in considering some of the value that's there. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching here. Don't go anywhere. We got a few more hours of football coverage coming up. Deep dive with Ben Rossa and Lofty is next. Then we're going to have Live Before Lock with Matt Kajeski and Eric Lindquist. So stick around for the next few hours, guys. We got you covered heading up to Lock. Have a great day. See you back here on the channel tomorrow.
Mhm.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive, second to last one of the regular season. Sad day. It truly does sadden me. I was thinking about this the other day, how much I'm going to miss football. Like, I know you have the postseason and everything. I think this week probably like put it all into focus for me because having Saturday football was the best. Got to watch the 1 p.m. game, terrible, but we bet the Chargers. That's good. Bet the Broncos in the 4 p.m. game. That game was, why are you shaking your head, dude? It went to overtime. That was
No, I'm saying that's a brutal. If you had three
Oh.
and a half, that's disgusting.
I got 3.5. And the
Yeah, that's
worst part
awful.
about it is if Cade York didn't miss that field goal, it's over anyway. And then the crazier part on top of all that is if Chase Brown didn't get hurt on the slide, then Denver has to use the timeout. The Bengals clearly kicked the field goal there. Anyway, awesome game. And then I fell asleep with like a quarter left in the last game. Who really cares about that? But it just made, I mean, you had Christmas Day football, Ben. We had just everything this week. And yesterday's game between Cincy and Denver felt like a legit playoff game because there were legit playoff implications on the line. I'm going to miss it, man.
Yeah, we're not over it just yet, so
But it's
we got
close
plenty to go.
because the season goes too fast.
It does go fast. There's no doubt about it. And those games were insane yesterday. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to break down. We don't need to break down Marvin Mims' hell of a catch, but just wild.
Two of them.
I mean, the first one was a dime from Bo Nix. I saw you tweet that, and it's true. But and now we got this. You know, on some levels, I love it because I think that the advantage that having the tools always give you advantage, but on a week like this with all the information, I think it's a more distinct advantage. But on the flip side, we are at the mercy of. I do think there's going to be some in-game situations that are unpredictable today. And look at the spreads. There's some big ones out there. Teams have given up. It's a mess on several fronts.
And only 8 games. I know we've had shorter slates before, you know, sometimes late in the year, right? Where you'll have like Christmas and stuff. I feel like it usually maybe 9 or 10. 8 games for a main slate seems crazy.
I asked you before the show, how many games were there? Because I genuinely thought that I was missing, like, it feels like there's still 11 games with all the things. Like, it doesn't feel like a smaller slate to me.
No, it's also one of these slates, though, where you've got 8 games, but you have Mason Rudolph.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You have Mason Rudolph, Mac Jones, Aiden O'Connell, Spencer Rattler, Cooper Rush, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, Tyler Huntley, likely, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I just rattled off more than half the quarterbacks on this slate. And hold on, let's see. Huntley, DTR, Flacco, Lock, Rush, Pickett, O'Connell, Rattler, Rudolph, Jones. That's 10 of 16 quarterbacks are backups.
If you're Bryce Young, you're like one of the premier quarterbacks on this slate by default, just by being a normal person. So fascinating. Again, it's typically we're discussing one or two of like, are you going to just punt at quarterback? Here it's, you know, if you're going to punt, which of the 10 choices are you going to punt with? And that's fascinating. It's not a slate that we see basically throughout the year at all.
It's really not. I'm actually very excited about this slate because we're going to get into some ugly stuff. You have to.
Yeah, it's going to be weird.
Yeah, you have to. I don't know how ugly I'm willing to go. I'm going to ask you out of the gate as we kick it off with the Jets and Buffalo Bill. Oh, of course. Happy to have you guys with us. It's Sunday morning. If this is your first time back after Christmas, we're currently in the midst of Hanukkah, huh?
Of what?
You don't know what Hanukkah is?
Oh,
Hanukkah is
Hanukkah.
a Jewish holiday.
Oh yeah, no, I've read about that.
Oh yeah,
I thought you said Monaco. I was gonna say, what is that?
I asked Greg the other day. I genuinely always thought Hanukkah came before Christmas.
So it's different today. This year it fell on Christmas.
Right. So I didn't know that.
Yeah. Get with it. What's wrong with you?
You didn't know what Hanukkah was.
No, I pronounce it. I didn't pronounce it Monaco.
I didn't either.
Check the tape.
But I hope you guys had a great Christmas, are enjoying your Hanukkah, and we got a lot to get into. But if you don't mind, take a single second. Ben, do the same. Jordan, there you go. Atone for your sins. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Goes a very long way for us. And look, we're not going to have many more of these. You're going to miss it when it's gone. Just remember that. So make sure to cherish it while it's here. Yeah. All right. Anyway, it's free to do. Thumbs up, subscribe, help us feed Diago. Goes a long way, helps us get the name out there, and we appreciate you for it. Buffalo Bills are 10-point favorites against the Jets. Is the Megamind genius play Josh Allen today? Tell me no, because I am not getting too much Josh Allen. I'm paying up for I really like Saquon this week, especially them having another week to prepare. And I wasn't getting a lot in the Sims, but I think I'm going to manually boost Jonathan Taylor this week as well.
I mean, yeah, he was someone, we saw his work last week in a big way. So I get that. Yeah, this is a weird situation because it's not that the Bills won't be trying, even though I'd say, them falling into the 2 seed is what's going to happen. But Josh Allen's banged up. Apparently he's got a broken hand, not his throwing hand. Do you worry? So this is what I was alluding to earlier. Situations like this, Buffalo is a 10-point favorite. He's on the field. But if the game is out of hand, do you not think that he is going to really be certainly rushing less and maybe not even out there late in the game, hurting his ceiling?
All right. So I have 2 opinions on this. Well, not to say that I'm no hypocrisy here, Ben, but let's say 2 schools of thought here, right? One is, yes, that could absolutely be the case. The other instance is if they win this game, they lock up the 2 seed. And if McDermott wanted to, next week is essentially a bye, even though they don't get the bye in the wild card round.
Yep.
So do they just pedal to the floor and steamroll the Jets, and then they have off next week? Or can they do that in 3 quarters and they just start resting these guys in the 4th? Who knows? Maybe they won't rest them next week. Coach, we know Dan Campbell, this game for the Lions doesn't even mean anything on Monday night for them, right? Like if Minnesota wins, it doesn't matter because Detroit still has to beat. Exactly. Like it all comes down to week 18 anyway. And if Minnesota loses, sure, Detroit wins and they lock it up, but Dan Campbell's playing anyway, right? He already said it, and I take his word. Take him at his word. I don't know what McDermott's going to do.
I don't either. I just, that becomes more impactful for me when you're paying. Now, salary is so soft, but a lot of it is coming from QB, so there is an opportunity cost. If you're paying $8,500, that's $1,600 more than Baker and anyone else on this quarterback slate. It's hard to do that and then also wonder, okay, how exactly am I getting there? Because I've talked about this at length. And again, last week, it kind of came to fruition, even though the game was close. If you look at Josh Allen and his rushing splits, he runs predominantly in high leverage impact games against good teams. I'm not saying he can't run against the Jets at home, but he's far less likely to have 15 carries, 12 carries, multiple touchdowns against the Jets as a 10-point favorite than he is against Detroit or the Rams or Kansas City or teams like that where clearly they're really going for it. So I worry about Josh Allen at that price point. Not that he doesn't have a good game, but does he have a great game? And can he outscore all those other cheap quarterbacks points per dollar? I'd say the answer is probably no.
And at that price point, it's really tough to do.
It's
not
really
only that, but I just have a tough time deciding who you're going to stack him with.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the problem all year. You can go skinny and then you could run them naked, but it just makes that problem even greater in my mind, and it's one I don't want to deal with.
How about James Cook on a slate where people are going to look to Tajay Spears? They're going to clearly look to Barkley. They're going to look to Bucky Irving, to Jonathan Taylor. There's some good mid-range, high-priced guys as well. He's kind of sitting in that no man's land. You go down to Bucky, you go down to Tajay Spears, you go up to Taylor, you go up to Saquon Barkley. There is something intriguing about James Cook today as a 10-point favorite against the New York Jets run defense that has really had some holes this season.
There's definitely something intriguing, but I'm going to stop right there in the sense that he's been unreal. Now, if he continues to average 7.5 to 9 yards a carry, you're going to be in business, but he better, because his snap share is awful for a 7K running back. He played 36% of snaps last week. He hasn't crossed 50% in over a month. And these other guys are performing really well in Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, whoever the hell's behind him at any point. I worry about that, because if you're telling me at 72, I'm going to get 15 touches, that's a lot of pressure to really get there.
That's what I don't like.
That's the scary part.
This is also the type of game where, you talk about Allen and everything. This is the type of game where you could see the Ray Davis experience later on.
Definitely.
Oh man, there were so many people yelling at me in chat, on Thursday when I said the Seahawks didn't really probably don't get up for that game. They don't really need to win it. What they need is the Rams to lose. By the way, Seahawks didn't get up for that game. What was it? 6-3.
That was awful.
And no, they need to win. It's crucial that they win. In essence, yes, if they lost, they were officially out. What I was saying, Ben, is that it wouldn't matter if the Rams win anyway. You know what the Seahawks' chances of making the playoffs are now? Less than 1%. All apologies accepted in chat, and I will accept them as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be getting they line up for those.
No, I love you guys regardless. But does that just mean that there's not? Kareem said, so there's a chance. Yeah, I suppose there's a chance, Kareem. Yes. Would you say, just straight Dumb and Dumber, can you believe that we have people at our company that don't know Dumb and Dumber references?
Yeah, it's very disturbing. You're not talking to the right person. I used to have he's sitting right there. I have a giant snowy owl right next to me because of that movie.
I love it. Our good friend Brian Berryman, very smart person,
sharp guy too. I don't get it.
Great guy. Didn't know, yeah, that
and Kingpin got to get on it, people.
Where the women instinctively flock like the salmon of Capistrano. Talking about a little place called Aspen. Who doesn't know that line?
You're talking to the wrong person.
Right, because it's a classic, right? As a child, as a teenager, it's a classic,
and it holds up. That and Kingpin hold up.
Yeah. If you're younger and you're in chat, go watch Dumb and Dumber. And if you don't like it, don't come telling us you don't like it. All right. Close, daddies. Close. It's our pets' heads are falling off. But yeah, of course, Makajeski doesn't, but he gets a pass because Makajeski just doesn't watch movies. Does that mean you're just not getting the Buffalo?
It means I'm not getting the Buffalo.
That's okay. Because I figure if you're not getting the Allen and you're not getting the Cook, I don't know how you're getting to Amari or, maybe Shakir, but even so, there's some good options at wide receiver. They're just a kind of non-factor for you, huh?
Yeah, it's a situation where because they're a great team, their price points are lofty, but I don't think the game flow is really. There's always so you're saying there's a chance. There's always a chance that someone has a couple of crazy plays, explosive plays, and it consolidates. But volume-wise, I don't think the Bills are in a great spot, and that makes it really tough when you're paying $8,000 or $7,000.
Exactly. Ed Choi, what's the soup du jour? It's the soup of the day. That sounds good. I'll have that one again.
Yeah, I say that, no joke, at least a couple times a month. Always. Anytime there's soup on the menu, I will say that.
It's one of the most quotable movies too.
Yeah, most of what I say is from that and a couple other movies.
Whenever my buddies and I are watching the Eagles and there's a horrible play, and one of our guys screws up, or from a fantasy standpoint, it's a kill him.
Yeah, just do yourself a favor, people. Get out there and
Jake DeWitt said, if I don't know what the odds are, but Devontae Adams' first touchdown could be worth a shot. I assume we're talking about the Aaron Rodgers thing here because he's caught his 200th, his 400th. Is Rodgers at 499 right now?
I know. I saw that where he Adams and him. I don't know where he's at. He better hope he's at 499 because if he's at he's not throwing 5 touchdowns. So, but still, I mean, I don't mind that. I think Adams would be busy regardless, but yeah, it's a small thing if you're in a coin flip situation.
I mean, Kyler Murray said he was trying to get Trey McBride a touchdown forever. It took him 98 receptions to finally get there.
Yeah, and he should have had 2 last night. Okay, so he does have 499, but still,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Look, I actually don't. I'd be willing to bet you that that's baked into the odds, though. I'd be very much willing to bet you that this is not going, like, if you look at Trey
not
McBride,
unnoticed.
Every week McBride didn't score, the odds got shorter, not longer. Bet
I would know.
Yeah. Yeah. So just keep that at the forefront. But I actually don't think Davante Adams is a terrible. Yeah, he's plus 125 on Caesar, plus 124 on Pinnacle. That they know. But that's anytime. I don't think Davante Adams is a bad play today, though, just because they're probably going to be throwing a lot. The guy's getting an insane. He has double-digit targets in 4 straight and 6 of his last 7. He really is getting absolutely peppered. And for all we know, this is the last time these two guys play together. They clearly have a connection. I don't hate Davante Adams even at that price point. I'll go as far to say, because I don't like this game much either, I think Davante is probably my favorite play from this game.
I would agree. Yeah, the only distinction that I would make, and I think we're on the same page, I would like Davante Adams if Rodgers had 483 touchdowns. Like, that's not why I like him.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt, but it's not the reason I want to target him, or I will target him. It's because he's been getting a ton of work and he's scoring touchdowns. They obviously have a connection. Game script should be good. They should be trailing. He's a solid play. I'll see what the tools give me, but yeah, he's probably my favorite by default in this game.
Yep. It's like you said, it's not the 499. It's the
I don't care about that.
It's the massive volume that he's been seeing. And at this rate, I don't see any reason why their starters aren't just going to play today. Like, I'm not actually that worried. Sure, if it's a huge blowout, but you could say that for a lot of spots, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's always, in week whatever we are, 17, there's always that equity of, like, do they want to keep guys that we just don't know? So you have to kind of just embrace that a little bit.
All right, let's move on because we got some good games. Only 8 here, so we don't have to rush. Dallas and Philly. CeeDee Lamb's done for the year. Jalen Tolbert and Brooks are questioned. I don't know if those guys are going to play. I don't know how much it matters, Ben, but maybe in the largest field of stuff, if you have several guys who are out, you look towards like a Turpin or something. I'm just throwing it out. It's ugly, but they might just have nobody. My guess is both of those guys play. It's hard for me to have much interest in Dallas today. Far and away, Saquon, call it chalky. I don't really care. Saquon Barkley, just my number 1 play on this slate. It was very interesting to see Washington bottle him up after Hurts went down. And what drives me insane is when people are like, I don't want this running back. Yeah, you see it in best ball all the time. Like, I don't want this running back on a team with a mobile quarterback. Why? They opened so much up. Barkley had 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. Washington totally changed how they played after that, and they bottled him up. He still finished with 150 and 2, but you get where I'm going. Jalen Hurts opens everything up in this offense. With that said, you've now had a week to prepare with Kenny Pickett. They knew Hurts wasn't going to play. You've had a week to prepare with Kenny Pickett. They're 7.5-point favorites. I still think Barkley's a fantastic play today, running behind a really good offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an interesting dynamic because at times, you look at, and I think we've all experienced this at this point. You look at Jalen Hurts, pushing twice in a game, multiple times, and you're like, this is brutal. This guy's killing Saquon. And there's some truth to that. But then you also look at, obviously, when you have to prepare for all these different elements, Derrick Henry and Lamar are another perfect example of this. And look at Baltimore, what they're doing. So not only is Saquon in a really good spot, and not only does he make a lot of sense on his own, the amount of value that's out there, I'm not going to say you have to do it because that's way overstating it. It's comically easy to get to him. You can't spend the salary fast enough today because there's just so much value. So he's going to be really popular. He should be. It's a brutal total, but totals are down across the board here. I think he's pretty clearly one of the premier pay-up options on the slate.
Definitely. And somebody had mentioned, I don't disagree with this. They were saying like, yeah, it depends because, just as far as touchdowns go, you're going to have just more opportunities at the goal line for Barkley. No question about it. But also when you have Jalen Hurts in there, you're going to be in, goal to go situations a lot more than with Kenny Pickett. So it's a give and take.
Definitely. Again, that's the balancing act that you have to kind of factor in. But with Saquon, whatever you could say is maybe negated or a negative, I think there are other areas that are now more positive, and he's just firmly in play. There's nothing really to say. I think the more interesting question is, do you have any interest in the passing game?
I have a little interest in Devonta Smith.
Okay.
Only a little, but he's 5,800 on DraftKings. And Kenny Pickett, Kenny Pickett wasn't the reason they lost. Devonta Smith dropped a perfect pass that would have brought them down to like the 12-yard line and sealed the game. It would have been over. Game would have been over. Devonta Smith dropped the pass. That's what happened. I don't know if you saw the end of that game, but that was Devonta. The Eagles lost 2 games this year on drops. Saquon Barkley would have iced the game against the Falcons. They had no time. Don't. I saw that smirk. It's not funny. And then Devonta Smith last week. So
like first drop, they said.
He's so sure-handed. He's 5,800. They're 7.5-point favorites. I think they still move the football. Kenny Pickett's arm is not great though. But I'd consider it a little. I think it's tougher for me to get to AJ Brown when you have Justin Jefferson up there in a massive game against Green Bay.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, that's always going to be, you can always make a case for when you're leveraging with a big time player like this, but I don't really feel the need to do that. And on the other side, I don't have a lot to say. So yeah, it's going to be Saquon for me. And, Jake Ferguson's a name that has popped up quite a bit. He had 9 targets last week for Dallas. I guess that's probably the extent of that for me.
Yeah. Yeah, these rushing yard records are interesting too. Charles said he already lost the record. He got extra games. Yeah, but then you could say Dickerson lost the record because he had extra games over OJ, who did it in 14. Like OJ had 2,000 plus yards in 14 games. Dickerson had 16. And now Barkley has 17. That's why I think these records are dumb, Ben. But players and coaches and teams don't see it that way. He needs like 268 or something to break it.
Yeah, again, it's one of these things. It seems like if the opportunity is there, sure. But I think we've all seen it. And probably some of it's because like the clips are out there. But Saquon doesn't seem particularly interested in any of this. They got bigger things going on. Hurts is already hurt. Like, do you really want to be like running him in a game that's in hand? I doubt it.
Earlier this season, when they were trying to put him back out there up big over the Giants, his former team, when he ran all over him, he's like, nah, let Will
Shipley get there.
Yeah, seriously. He was like, put Gainwell and Shipley in. He called him something. I forget, Young Bull or something.
Yeah, he was like, let them eat. Yeah, I remember that clip. That's the clip I'm referring to. So it's like, sure, does he want to break the record? Probably, but are they going to artificially give him volume for it? I'd say no.
He's just happy to be on a good team. But here's the great thing. The artificial volume isn't important because he's going to get volume anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. Barkley, and yeah, you know what? Would you stack Pickett?
I mean, if I played him, but I'm not playing him.
The reason I wouldn't is he's 5,500. He's not even that cheap.
There's just so many. There again, on a different slate, we might be talking about Kenny Pickett as that punt option amongst all these pay up quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett's probably like in the middle of the pricing for quarterbacks this week.
Exactly. If you remove Josh Allen, Kenny Pickett is in the middle of pricing.
So he's in the bucket of playable guys. And if you do that, I think you could go you could probably make like a Pickett, Saquon, Devontae. I'm not really exploring that.
Are you going to anything for Dallas?
It's going to be more of a one-off with Ferguson. I was running the Sims just very briefly just as first run, just seeing what I got. And he was popping up a decent amount. I don't know though. I really don't have a ton else on the team, to be completely honest. Like, I think Dowdle's fine. He's just not making a lot of sense on this slate for me. And then it gets pretty slippery pretty quickly in this game.
Who did you say was popping up for you?
Ferguson. I was getting a good amount of him.
Yeah, that was the one I was getting to. I'll be interested to see what the inactives looks like for Dallas, because, you know, if you did happen, if you're like, okay, well now Jalen Tolbert's out, Jalen Brooks is out, that I'd maybe consider one of these super cheap guys in lineups where, like, let's say I'm paying up, I have a Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor lineup. I might just punt the position down to 3,100 or 3,400 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like Turpin, it only takes one.
Right.
Maybe you double dip with like their defense. I don't know. It's just not my favorite build in a low total game.
I agree. I mean, I even had a couple lineups earlier when I was using them in the single lineup sim, just building some stuff out. I had a couple where I plugged in a $3,100 Kevin Austin, so I could jam Barkley and Taylor with a Tampa stack.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm scarred from that. Of all the bad games that I've seen, the Saints showing was the worst. That's the worst I've seen a team look maybe ever.
It was, but I think I think it's
awful.
It was, look, I hammered Packers minus 13.5.
They should fire the intern coach.
Yeah. You know, usually I don't like taking numbers that big or grabbing, but sometimes they're not big. Sometimes you actually can't make them big enough.
I had the Packers in the first half because I was like, I don't want to mess around. It didn't even matter.
Didn't matter. It didn't matter. Well, it was probably like 9.5 first half. That's right.
Because I was just like, you know what? I think there's a good chance, you know, it's 17-20 going to the fourth and a fluke touchdown and you get hooked. But no. Awful.
Don't get me wrong. The Saints team is terrible. However, there is a big difference between just hear me out, a road game against the Packers team at cold Lambeau Field, where the Packers have everything to play for, and a home game against the Raiders, who have one of the worst coaches in Antonio Pierce, and also Aiden O'Connell. All I'm saying is there is, despite everything we saw on Monday, you'd agree, still a massive difference there in situation.
It's a 2-point spread. It's a 2-point spread today.
Yeah, if I'm betting this, give me the Saints money line. I'd take that over. I don't think you could ever convince me to bet the Raiders as a road favorite.
I don't think I've ever done this, and I doubt that I will, but we're going to clip this if I'm right. This is the type of game that's going to end in a tie. It just is for reasons.
Okay.
Like, it's just both coaches are going to be unable to win.
Hold on. What type of tie? Like a 6-6 tie?
No. It'll just be like, you know, bizarre, and then it'll just be like 23-23. Just like, all right, that's it.
It's going to end up being like an 18-18 tie.
Yeah, like a weird score, but they both get there somehow.
Yeah, right. All right. Carolina and Tampa Bay, fun game. I did bet the alt spread on Tampa earlier in the week, 19.5.
I think they lay it on them, obviously.
Well, it's these type of spots. Like I considered doing the same thing with the Chargers, where either it's just an ugly game or Tampa runs away with it. And sometimes I like betting situationally, right? And I think it's actually the way to do it with foot. You know how crazy the NFL is. If you get too dug in, like rooted in stats, you'll get crushed. I can tell you from experience. It doesn't mean you don't pay attention to numbers like that, right? But when you look at certain scenarios, the way they play out, like the Patriots just put everything on the line against Buffalo last week. You knew coming out to be flat against the Chargers, right? Chargers have something to play for. Tampa has everything to play for. Carolina took them to overtime last time out, and Carolina just eliminated the Cardinals from playoffs last week. That was their, that was their big send off. So I think coming into this game on the road in Tampa, I know there's a little bit of weather here. I'm not particularly worried. There's not a ton of, I'm not super worried about this. I was looking at it earlier, like 9-10 mile per hour winds, unless that's changed. Yeah, I think Tampa could pile it on today. And I really like these Baker stacks.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they won't be shy, and I get it. And they're going to be, of all the teams on the slate, they're the one that I think most people are going to feel really comfortable with. Bucky Irving is, I think, one of the best plays on the entire slate. Not breaking any news there. Going to have a lot of him. And then you've got Evans, you've got Baker, you've got some pay down options. You know, the Bucks, they did us a favor. Obviously, you don't love to see just in life people getting hurt, but they started to thin out by default without Otten and some of these guys. The target share is condensed and the rotation's pretty good. So some of these guys like McMillan and even, you know, some of the real cheapies have found a home here. And so you can make this work pretty easily. Tampa's going to be a team, and they should be.
McMillan, even Durham.
That's what I mean. Like, you can go that low if you need to.
I would too. I don't have a. I truthfully wouldn't be shocked if Payne Durham basically just plays the Cade Otton role. He did last week. He didn't have a lot of he didn't have any like high value targets in the sense that there was anything really downfield. But you got a guy in Otton who's been playing an average of 93% of snaps over the last, I think, 8 weeks. Durham played 93% of snaps last week. What did he have, like 6 or 7 targets?
He had 7 targets, and he's kind of shown the ability that he can catch the football. Clearly, he's got some skills, and at that price point, that's going to work every time. So it's not as dynamic, but at the same time, it's always a positive when you have a team and you have everything checked off. That's the easiest type of stack to build. You've got the quarterback. You've got the alpha receiver in Evans. You've got Bucky in that backfield. You've got a mid-range wide receiver, McMillan. You have a punt option at tight end. You can do anything with that. And they're a healthy, motivated team at home. They check basically every box. They're just going to be popular, and they should be.
Yeah. Shy Fan said, yeah, but Cade Otton's role with Evans is much different than the Cade Otton role without. Of course. But Cade Otton without Evans got up to what, like 6,500? And with Evans, Payne Durham is 2,900. So it's all about, I know some people would tell us in chat that salary doesn't matter. But it's all about, it's about the salary. He's 2,900. He's a stack attachment. Baker's one of the more expensive. I think he's the second most expensive on the slate behind, right? I think let me say behind
Josh Allen. Yep.
So Malcolm asked Max Bucks in the lineup. You can. I mean, I think you can play it however you want. McMillan, Durham, obviously Mike Evans. And do I think they're trying to get him 1,000 yards? I 100% do. I don't care what anyone says. I think they're trying to get Mike Evans that 1,000 yards.
This is a good question and timely super chat from Brandon Wagner, who's a good guy and friend of the show. That's the one piece I'm not sure about. What about Rachaad White as a stack partner with Baker? You definitely can do it. He's in that kind of ambiguous role because Bucky's been awesome. You're definitely going to, I'd rather have him in the stack. So I think you're on the right track there. He had 8 targets in the last game against Dallas, but he only had 3 carries. So I'm not sure exactly what you're getting there, but I'd say playable, but probably a more obscure type of Bucks build.
Fantastic chat etiquette.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, appreciate you, Brandon. Thank you. I bet over 35.5 rushing yards on White because of the way I see this game going, but that doesn't really have, it's not tethered to my DFS thoughts at all. Like Bucky's still the lead runner. I don't think Rachaad White's a crazy play this week though. I think the question is less about stacks, and with them as 9.5 point favorites, what are the implied totals on this slate? Because they've got to be up there, right? They've got to be up there with close to Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, what's the total in the game?
I'll tell you.
Tell me that I can do it.
I know you can. 47.5. And now they're 10-point favorites, so that's even easier for you.
Yeah, so that's like
28.5.
Yeah, so yeah.
I always
like 4 touchdowns is pretty good.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
I
Or would it
wouldn't
be-
play them together. That's one thing I wouldn't do.
No, not on a main slate.
No. It's just, yeah, I'm not paying $11,000 for my running backs from the same team. That's just not what I would do.
What I'm getting at, I think what you're saying, that with such a high total, it is possible for White to have a game. Would you consider him
yeah.
as a pivot in any like large field stuff off of Tajay Spears?
Yeah, but I think he's more of a pivot off Bucky.
Right, but he would be a pivot off of both, and both are going to be two of the chalkiest running backs on the slate.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I just think for me, Bucky Irving fits basically any type of build. Rachaad White, I'm more focusing in on if I play Baker.
Okay. It's a fascinating spot though, because outside of last game where he only had 3 attempts, Rachaad White was still getting a lot of rushing attempts, even when White was healthy. What man, I might make some moves here just to try and get a little bit of Rachaad White.
Yeah, Chad is on it. Malcolm McConnell sounds like the actor, but probably isn't. Super Megamind Genius, I think he may be. He is skirting the lines of Super Megamind Genius to straight jackass play. I think he's more of a genius play in large field tournaments. Yeah, I'm gonna put the stamp of approval on that.
I love it. Will said White is getting benched completely for that fumble that lost the game. No, he's not. They're not going to bench him.
He'll get benched like Stevenson.
Yeah, how about that? How about that reporting?
That's another, again, there's an epidemic in this league of coaches that don't understand that they are the coach. Antonio Pierce.
You're not a big Pierce or Mayo fan.
No, because they talk not in the third person, like in the fourth person. Like, yeah, I hear you. You have to ask like, I don't have anything on that. You have to talk to the, like, what do you mean you don't have anything on that? The question was, why did you punt? And it's like, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Like, you got to talk to, I'm not in charge of that. Like, no, you are, my friend.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't make the rules.
Yeah. It's like, what are you talking? Again, I think both of them are thinking, if I play my cards right, I'm going to get to interview for the head coaching job next year. And it's just like, you don't understand when they fire the head coach, you're going to be in for a real big shock.
Right. Yeah. Maybe the Bears will offer me the job.
It's
crazy. I think they're keeping Mayo though. There's no way Pierce sticks around.
No. If he does, if the as OddsShopper is growing and our community is really expanding, we'll talk about that in a little bit. If we can get the books to offer odds on 2025 Goblin of the Year, Antonio Pierce would be minus 10,000 at the books if he survives this year into next year. There's no way.
It would be 2026 Goblin. Well, yes, you're right. Presenter of because 2025 is Eberflus.
Yeah, he just, I can't.
You know what the amazing thing is? That he'll be presenting our Goblin of the Year on the First Look show next year. I said to you all year, like, there's a lot of coaches that aren't good, but they don't make terrible enough decisions to stand out. Eberflus sealed it with one single decision over the course of a season. One decision sealed it for him.
Yeah, I mean, it happened to be on Thanksgiving, so that was his biggest problem.
I'm not saying him getting fired was the result of one decision, but our decision to make him the Goblin was based off of that one thing. Because Antonio Pierce was the front runner for sure. Anyway, people are asking about Blackshear. I'm not getting it. Tampa Bay they're still a very good run defense. And I expect Mike Boone, for what it's worth, guys, has a higher rushing prop than Blackshear today. Take that for what it's worth. But to me, both of these guys are at like 29.5 and 34.5 rushing yards, with Chuba Hubbard on the IR. I'm out on the running backs for if you could definitely convince me that they're worth a play at that price. If it was just one of these guys, I expected to get all the work. I don't have much interest in trying to figure out against a good run defense as a 10-point dog, which of Blackshear or Mike Boone is going to be the guy.
Tend to agree. Could you always take stabs? Definitely, because there's uncertainty and whatnot. I think if I was going to go to Carolina, it would be Thielen.
Me too.
I feel good about him. He should be busy. They should be throwing. Bryce Young has made real strides. At this pace, he's going to lap CJ Stroud double over, which is hilarious considering where they were last year. I feel good about Thielen, but it's mostly a one-off.
I don't mind Thielen. He's really the only one I like from Carolina. Unless you wanted a couple Bryce stacks, I don't think it's insane. If they're playing from behind and he just has to chuck.
Yeah, my biggest problem with that was is it like skinny? Am I rolling
I know.
Blackshear with them? I'm not like super keen to do either of those.
I have 4% Bryce Young right now. And they are all right. So of the 4%,
Poker?
so I have two double stacks and the rest are skinny stacks. No triples, obviously.
Okay.
I think that's fine. But he's by far not a priority. Furthest thing from a priority. Indy and the New York Giants. All right, let's go. Did you want to mention OddsShopper, by the way? Because somebody tweeted me yesterday and I thought this was great. I quote tweeted it and said, I wouldn't lie to you guys.
Yeah, I did. I saw. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, because he tweeted and said, I joined OddsShopper with minimal expectations and because of how much Laffy D praised it. He's not exaggerating. I turned 1,000 over on three sports books into almost 4,000. And this is just in December, by the way, using only EV betting, easy decision to renew for me. And I looked at that and I woke up to that. Actually, it was 2 days after Christmas, right? So 2 days ago, actually. And I thought, I was like, I worked in sales at this. It was like a advertising company. And this was a long time ago. And do you have like the red plum bags around you where it's like all of the penny pincher things and everything? They used to be around. They probably aren't anymore. Right. But it'd be like not a newspaper, but it would look like the newspaper bag. They throw it on your driveway and it would be like all of those like Savor, magazines and a bunch of random magazines, whatever, monthly magazines and issues. And I did that. And I hated doing it because I knew what I was selling was no good. It was just, I quit. It's like, I'm not doing this. Like, I feel like with this, the reason I praised it so much and the reason is because it's so easy to be like, hey, I use this tool every day and I'm up a ton of money. So you know how easy that is to be like, I want you guys to try it out because I'm winning money every day. And so is everyone else that uses it. You know how much easier that is than just being like, hey, we'd love to get you here in the magazine and people probably throw it in the trash.
The penny saver.
Penny saver. Right.
Yeah.
What I say?
Good job, chat. Yeah. I remember that.
Penny saver. And then there's another one too. There's another one that's similar to that, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Obviously. And again, I think the thing that that I loved about this, and I'm not saying it was all intentional, but at the same time, is these products were built for us to use because we knew if we loved them, you guys would love them. And at the beginning, there were things that we both, and the team was like, you know what, as a user, not as someone who's going to sell this, as a user, I hate this. This drives me nuts. This is not what I want. And slowly we molded it to now where I have changed. I've been betting for a long time and I had a very rigid process that worked. And I have integrated this fully into my betting. I never would have done that unless it was something that was seamless and is just saving me time and making me more money because the books are constantly evolving. What worked, just like with DFS, what worked 3 years ago and 5 years ago and 6 months ago is not going to work in 6 months or 2 years from now. So you have to stay ahead of it. And there is no doubt the ability to quickly and easily, and when I say quickly, the mass enter, you're talking about, I don't know why you're always out, but you're at Costco, you're walking the dog, you're doing all this stuff.
I place 100% of my bets from my phone. And there's something weird about Verizon with my laptop and my desktop that won't identify my location anyway. So every bet is from my phone.
Yeah. And you're always out there and you're placing dozens of bets, hundreds of bets, literally seamlessly while you're just doing life, where you're just living. And that's the key. You don't have to be slaving over projections.
I was at breakfast yesterday with my kids, my wife and everything. And I, under the table real quick, I was like, oh, there's 15 bets on the board. Bam. Got him in 30 seconds. No one even knew.
That's what I'm saying. And then you wake up and that's money. That's bankroll. So if you haven't tried it with, like I said, NBA, NHL, NFL, you get in our Discord, come and check it out. I mean, it's here for you guys. Obviously, with New Year's coming up, we've got some exciting things right around the corner. It's legit. It really is. And you guys won't regret it.
Oh, and hit us up too. If you have questions, my DMs are always open. Ben's always in the Discord if you decide to join. We got awesome tutorials that'll only take you 10 minutes to watch. If you're ever interested, man, links in the description. Jordan can throw it in the chat as well. We love this tool, Portfolio EV, straight market-based betting. Get hundreds of bets down every day in less than 30 minutes. Like, I can't say anything more about it. It's awesome. And the testimonials make me far happier because I know it works for me, but seeing it work for other people is even better. Well, not even better, but it's good. Anyway, let's talk about this Indy and Giants game. I love Anthony Richardson's out. The line didn't move, 7.5 points. I don't know if that would have been the case anyway, or if it was baked in, but Joe Flacco, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, and Alec Pierce are all basically the same price. It's a dirt cheap stack. It's going to be popular against the Giants. Unquestionably, this is going to be popular. This is where I start thinking about getting a little weird, Ben. I built some lineups this morning without Flacco, but they had Jonathan Taylor and Josh Downs, or Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, in the event that they just rout this lifeless Giants team. They are a truly pitiful. They're an abomination, this Giants team, and they need to lose this game.
Well, the Giants. You want to talk about making history? The Giants are going to go 0-9 at home, which literally no one has ever done for obvious reasons. That's hard to do. I mean, how the hell are you going to go? No one's had that opportunity. And
I meant they haven't won a home. Yeah, they're right. They haven't. Of course, they've only won 2 games.
Yeah, they're going to go 0-9 at home. That is impossible. Having said that, there's a good opportunity for the Colts. North of a touchdown favorite against, as you mentioned, a straight lifeless team. And the price points are really nice. Now, Jonathan Taylor did get a bump, and he went super nuclear, 29 carries, 218 and 3. In a weird game. That game, you look at it and you say, oh, 38-30. What a crazy shootout. It wasn't that at all. They were up by like 4 touchdowns. And for some insane reason, the Colts gave up and almost blew the game. I don't know why they did that, but it's hard not to like some of these guys. Josh Downs is going to be really popular today, sub 5K, and I totally get it. Pittman's the one I don't know what to do. You would think he gets a nice boost with this situation, but yeah, I think the Colts are a really, really solid team, but they're not as easy to stack as I thought they'd be.
To me, I'm very interested in it's one of my favorite ways to play teams like this when they're cheap enough. Like a Taylor Downs or Taylor Pittman, no Flacco. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have Flacco. I certainly am, right? Like right now, Flacco is my, let's see, as far as quarterback exposure, running the Sims. Yeah, he's my highest exposed quarterback right now. Him and Baker. But are you with me or against me that a Taylor Downs or Taylor Pittman combo, no stack, is, because I think it's super viable given the price of these pass catchers.
It's definitely viable for a couple reasons. One, the price point of the pass catchers. 2, the chances that Flacco, I mean, never say never, because Stafford was running like a banshee last night. The chances that Flacco has isolated points is as low as you could get. So, yeah, I mean, this is the exact type of situation that you could do that. And Jonathan Taylor, he could truly just follow up with a monster performance with another one here.
He really could. And no Dexter Lawrence for weeks now. That was bad.
The Giants. And yes, they were in Munich. I don't care where they played. It's just been, as a New Yorker, it's a damn shame how bad they are.
So I think the thought here is there's a million different ways to play the Colts. You don't just have to go with the basic Taylor Downs Pittman stack. Or I'm sorry, Flacco Downs Pittman.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts to me are like Tampa. I want exposure to the team, and I think there's a multitude of ways to do it. If I had to do anything, it would probably actually just be one-offs and less Flacco, but I'm not opposed to getting to Flacco and just like onslaughting the team as well.
My favorite way is I'll call them two offs, but you know what I'm talking about. Taylor plus a pass catcher. That's my favorite way to do it. Last question here. What about Alec Pierce? Is he just the odd man out for good reason, or should we be thinking about getting some Alec Pierce into lineups? Because you know damn well that Pittman and Downs are going to be a lot more popular than he is.
Yeah, I still think all in all, he is the odd guy outside looking in. His floor is just so low. And yes, I understand you can blow a slate open and Flacco helps, but you have two of them right there. And I just realistically, I don't want to say, oh yeah, I just know that he's going to get squeezed for me. And that's just the way it is on this slate.
That's fair. Comment in chat. Pierce is the big downfield threat. He gets a lot of those, yes, but it feels like most of those were from Richardson.
I mean, if there is, Richardson's got his faults, and I jammed him last week, and it should have been better, honestly.
You had the right.
It was the right read. It
was the right read. It's just Taylor went nuclear.
Yeah, and they literally stopped throwing, and not to mention Anthony Richardson scored. They reviewed it. They marked him down on the 1 centimeter line, and then Taylor scored. That was the real killer in that game. They took Richardson's touchdown and gave it to Taylor.
What do you do on the other side with the Giants? I don't think Neighbors considered himself a game time decision, and now he's expected to play. This team, the offensive line is atrocious. Drew Lock is terrible. And some of it's not even his fault. They can't protect him, but a lot of it is his fault. Tyrone Tracy is good, but he has they're down 100. It doesn't matter. Like, he's just phased out of the game in the first quarter.
This is the 3-game slate yesterday. I'd have more to say, but it's not. It's an 8-game slate, and the Giants are a mess, and they're going to continue to be a mess. And even though they have pieces of weapons, the pieces around those weapons really impact the ceiling. So if you told me you wanted to get to Neighbors because you want access to maybe 15 targets, I wouldn't blame you. But that's about all I can even, in theory, get to.
I'd want to play Neighbors a little bit, but I'm not convinced he's 100%. And other than getting him like 31 yards to 1,000 and 3 receptions for 100 as a rookie, what incentive do they have to play this guy?
They don't have anything, and he's been. Yeah, it's just a mess. I know I just keep saying that, but you just look at this team. There are so many things that could derail the output today, starting with the fact that they're just no good. So I worry about them a lot today, and I don't think this game is going to be super back and forth.
David said that slide to play for the field goal is dumb AF. Just take the damn touchdown and lock it up. It's dumb if you know he's going to get hurt.
What you do is what was dumb, and we don't need to get into this, is they should have taken a knee and then run. You force them to burn the timeout. That was the dumb part. If you're going to do it, you didn't know he was going to get hurt, but I don't know why they didn't force them to burn the timeout.
Look, do I hate the idea that, I mean, could you have
those points too? Just
run it in? Sure. But there was still like a minute 20 on the clock, and that would have given Denver a minute 20 with the timeout. And they just came down the field and scored a touchdown the possession before that, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the optimal move there 100% is taking the clock down to 1 second and kicking a field goal.
And that's a fact. Legit chip shot.
Yes, you do that. But after Chase Brown got hurt and they had to use the timeout, the optimal move is to force Denver to use a timeout and then attempt to score a touchdown.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
They did none of that somehow.
No. Wait, no. Denver scored a touchdown on the ensuing drive.
Yeah, I know. Mims scored.
So when people are saying you score the points and lock it up, what do you mean? Denver tied it.
Yeah, I know. That's why you don't do that. It's very simple.
Exactly. Like, Chase personally made the right move. He can't help getting hurt. That forced the Cincy injury timeout. And then Denver didn't have to. If he had kneeled and not gotten hurt, then
we're not
Denver's
talking about
forced to take the timeout. You run it down to 1 second. You call a timeout. The game's up. That is the right play.
Of course. Of course.
Everyone's saying how dumb it was. Are we rewriting history that Denver didn't actually do what they didn't want them to do if they scored?
That's why you don't do that.
Vegas and New Orleans. Oh, baby. All right. Raiders 1.5, 2-point favorites, wherever you look. 38-point total here. All right. So you got Brock Bowers. You got Jacoby Myers. You have a bad Saints team. I think the Saints win this game. How about that, Ben? I think the Saints win this game.
I mean, yeah. When I hear that, I'm like, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. But if you said, I think the Raiders win this game, I would also say that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Somebody has to win, even though it'll end in a tie, like I said. This game, quietly, I think is pretty good for DFS.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. Now, you've got this Saints team coming off a humiliating loss in prime time. I don't think they just get routed by the Raiders. Feel free to come back and feel free to come back and tell me I'm a moron if that's the case. But what you were just going to say, exactly, if that happens, Darren Rizzi has no shot of it. Not that he probably did anyway, and he's working, don't get me wrong, he's working with a skeleton crew. So there's only so much you can do here. Chris Olave is out. He never came back despite fully practicing. Why would he? Alvin Kamara's out. Derek Carr is out. Are you interested in Kendre Miller?
So I do think that that's a decent, when we were talking about a lot of the pivots off, Bucky and Tajay Spears, who are in better spots. I would like to see, and we really haven't, do you think Kendre Miller's workload will look significantly different if they happen to play from ahead? That's the one question I want answered.
Ahead or just not down?
Or competitive. Yeah.
Competitive. Right. Okay. Yeah, I do. I do. I don't think Jordan Mims is going to be out there as much. To me, so Kendre Miller has a rushing attempts prop of 12.5, which is okay, right? It's fine. I think you would want to get this guy some work, don't you?
I mean, it seems that to be limited reason why you wouldn't. Do you really need to learn about Jamal Williams at this point? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So you figure a couple targets, double-digit carries. There's some utility there at 55. There are other pieces in this game I'd rather get to, but yeah, he's in the conversation.
Also, another thing, the Saints promoted Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the active roster.
That guy's on multiple teams.
There's a cool Twitter account out there. I don't know if you follow it, called 32 Beat Writers. And it's very good. They basically just retweet relevant stuff from beat writers. I actually have notifications on for a bunch of these things just so I don't miss it. This just came through right now. Nick Underhill, who I think he's a beat writer. Yeah, beat writer, journalist for the Saints. Take it with a grain of salt if you'd like. But he said, I think Clyde is going to have a real role today. So let me put it to you this way. On a team that already is so bad with as many question marks as they have, this kind of just solidifies it for me that I'm probably just not going to take any chances in that backfield.
That's the question you always, or at least that I try to ask myself when I'm, using the tools, really doing anything, is if I'm going to make this pivot, I'm really going to make a stand. If I get it right, never mind if it fails. If it fails, it fails. But if I get it right, how big is the reward? And my biggest problem with Kendre Miller is I feel like there's situations where, okay, you make this pivot and you get it right, and he gives you like 17. And it's like, okay, that was nice, but what did it really, like, does he have a path to multiple touchdowns? Does he have a path to 18 touches? Those are the questions I think you need to at least say, in theory, the answer is yes. Not that he's going to get it, but he could. Because if not, then I don't know why that's the stand I want to make.
Exactly.
That's what's tough. Like,
I mean, to thread that needle is
hero
insane.
Call, and then you don't get paid off is brutal.
Like, what's their implied total today? It's got to be sub 20.
What's the total?
It's a 38 point total. They're 2-point dogs.
Well, so yeah, it's like 16 and a half, 17.
Right. Abysmal. All right. I mentioned this to you that if I needed to, someone like Kevin Austin, who played 90% of snaps last week, you could roll your eye, not you, but you could roll your eyes at this
No,
point.
I'll roll him.
But this to me is if you're going like Baker double with Evans and McMillan plus two expensive running backs, if you really need that guy and you like the rest of your lineup, I don't have a huge issue with it. 4 or 5 targets. They have no one else. If MVS is out, that makes things even more interesting. Then I'd like it even more because you'd see a snap count probably drop down to like, I don't know, 75% if MVS plays. But if MVS is out, they're still going to have to throw the ball. And again, they're still at home against PFF. If you take like PFF or don't, doesn't matter. They still have the Raiders as the worst coverage team in the league on defense.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can't go worse. And I do think the MVS piece for me personally does matter a little bit. If he's out, that would be a little more intriguing. It's funny. I remember distinctly, I believe it was Monday. I can't even keep the days straight. You DM'd me right before that game when MVS was ruled out, and you asked me if I had hit any props. And I did originate a few on these Saints wide receivers, and it failed spectacularly because they could not do anything. So you're gonna get some volume, but it is brutal. I want to see the MVS piece. If you're in a jam, though, there's a lot of cheap wide receivers for this Saints team.
I think Austin would be the guy if MVS is out. For me, it'd probably be Austin. Just get 90% of snaps from him at what is he? I think 31. He's basically the minimum.
Yeah, I still think for me, if I was going to mess around with anyone, I know he did nothing last game. I think Juwan Johnson at 35
That's fine too.
Is just a play.
The only reason I like Austin a little bit more is because I think there's more value at tight end.
I agree with that. Yep.
Like this. Oh, and by the way, let me ask you, what are you doing with the Raiders today? Jacoby, Bowers, those type of guys, because they look pretty. I don't think I want to go to Madison and figure out between him and Abdullah. If Madison was 4,500 and not, what is he, like 54, 5,500? Sure. But I'm not trying to figure out that backfield. Bowers and Myers are just pretty much squarely in play for me each week if they're in a respectable matchup.
Totally agree. I also think it's not my preferred, but I think you could play all of them and loop in O'Connell if you want to punt. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, neither do I.
He's capable.
And maybe the Saints do just get shit on again.
Yeah, there's scenarios where the Saints are actually just awful and they get crushed like they did against Green Bay at home. I don't think that's impossible.
I think it's highly unlikely, but I think you'd agree with that too. But it's possible, sure.
Yeah.
I have 6% O'Connell. 6%. 2% are single skinny stacks, 4% are doubles. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this Tennessee and Jacksonville game. You know what I was going to mention to you, and I looked at the run sheet and I was like, oh, I'll save it for this. Was that talking about tight ends? Tennessee's a 1-point favorite, 39.5 point total. No Tony Pollard. So obviously Tajay Spears is just chalk, and he should be. He was already getting involved more. And I'm pretty sure we'd agree Tony Pollard hasn't been fully healthy for a while now. But Chigakonkwo.
Well, yeah.
Guy has double-digit targets back-to-back games. I went back yesterday and I was looking through the targets. He has 3 targets over the last 2 games that don't even count in the box score because of defensive pass interference. Guy's been getting peppered by Mason Rudolph. And I also wanted to pick your brain on this one too. Do you think they're just like, okay, lost season. Let's see what we have in this guy. Cause he's a 3rd-year player. He's never been really used heavily despite being out there a decent amount. You might just see another heavy volume game for Chigakonkwo in a really good matchup. I like him a lot today.
So do I. I mean, everything checks out. He's obviously an athletic dude that can do some things and cause some problems. The price is right. The Titans are a true they are. I saw yesterday. I believe they are 2-13 against the spread. The worst.
I saw Eric tweet that they'd be 2-14 against the spread. We've played 16 games so far. Yeah.
Good for them. It's almost 100% that I believe that I bet them in over 10 of those, and they were not the wins. And it's almost 100% that they were up multiple scores in about half of those. They have been ungodly bad at doing much of anything. But from that, I think it's pretty clear, not that the future is this, but Mason Rudolph makes them more of a playable team in general. He knows what he's doing, and he's going to help unlock these guys.
Agreed. They have the worst non-cover of the season. The first blown.
Yes, in week 1.
You remember who it was against?
The Bears.
Yep. Where the Bears did not have a single offensive touchdown.
They were down like 30 points.
They were down 17-0. I remember all of this. I could tell you what the spread in that game was in the final score. Could you? You got the steel trap. Go ahead, give it a shot.
3.5.
4.5.
4.5. Okay.
So 4.5 point spread. Titans were up 17-0. Game ended 24-17.
I knew it ended 24-17. I knew that. I was positive of.
Yeah. Titans were 4.5 point dogs with a 17-0 lead. Caleb Williams and the offense had 0 touchdowns. They had 3 defensive touchdowns, and the Titans didn't cover. That's when I knew. That's what you should just know at that point, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be a long season. Yeah, that was week 1. So, but the Titans are a good team today. Obviously, Spears is a core play. To me, Jig and Calvin Ridley are just very playable. And I think Rudolph is one of my preferred paydown options. So there it is for me. I like the Titans today.
JoJo said that's the game Levis threw the worst pick I've ever seen. Honestly,
you have to be more specific. That doesn't do much for me.
You stole it from me. Yeah, because it wasn't the very next game. He made one of those plays against the Jets that was actually unthinkable. He does it all the time. We had a comment from Lee Mike 72. The line for Miami game went way down. Yeah, because Tua is doubtful now. That happened yesterday afternoon. The Tua news came out as doubtful. Yeah, Tajay Spears. Do we have to say much on? Well, not that he's a good play, but are you over the field, with the field? Is it because I know a lot of times with these chalky backs, you like to play it a little bit more conservatively and go, hey, I'm just not going to let him kill me if he one way or another.
Yeah, I'm going to be over. I'm not sure. Yeah, I like the spot a lot. Again, some of this is just like personal. I'm originating these thoughts. I do tend to think that when it's a back that's, especially late in the year, that's fresh like this, and they're more apt to say, let's let this guy go and see what we have. And he can do multiple things. He's not going to be phased out of the offense. I'm not saying I'm locking him, but I'm going to get over. Yeah.
Not worried about the old Chestnut coming in.
Joey Chestnut? No, I'm not. No,
I'm not super worried about that either. Plus, they already started using Spears more. Like you've seen that kind of evolution of Tajay Spears since he got healthy.
He also, and this is an unknown, I think there's a decent chance that Tajay Spears is just really good.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah, and that just adds to the appeal, because you're not going, all right, like Mike Boone. We kind of know what Mike Boone is, right? You know exactly what Alexander Madison is.
Yep.
But with Tajay Spears, we don't know, but we know that he's not terrible.
I think there's a chance that he could be like he reminds me a little of Chase Brown, where it was like, okay, he didn't have the opportunity, and then he got the opportunity, and all of a sudden he went from 5K to 6K to 7K to 8K. And if Spears had that role, I think the same might happen.
I was all over Chase Brown earlier in the year, and so many people were tweeting me like, he's just a straight shot, like a straight runner. He can't do anything. Chase Brown's good.
Yeah, Tajay Spears is good.
All right, I like it. Is he your highest exposed player, you think?
I think he's going to be, yeah.
Yeah. I have him up there with Bucky and a few others. I'm probably going to try and get more Taylor than I only have 10% Jonathan Taylor right now.
Yeah, it's nice to have that base covered. I'll admit that.
I would like to get a little bit more Taylor. That's all I'm saying here. And as much as I like Bucky Irving, there is one noticeable difference between Bucky Irving and between Jonathan Taylor. Well, price point, right? The $1,200. But to what you pointed out earlier, you don't have to worry too much. It's not that hard to get there. The one noticeable difference, and I think it's a pretty dramatic difference, you're not ever worried, excuse me, about Trey Sermon. Whereas Rachaad White just might have a expanded role. We see that stuff happen. I'm going to have a lot of Bucky Irving, but I don't want him to define my entire slate. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but I don't really want him to define my slate.
I'm gonna have a lot of them too, but I agree. I think Tampa also just has a lot of options. A lot of options.
Yes. And a good quarterback.
Yeah.
So Spears, Chig, how about Ridley? You DM me last week, like at the beginning of the game, and you just said, well, there's Ridley.
Yeah, it's just like I have Ridley. He's gonna be my Mason Rudolph stacks. So yeah, I think Ridley's fine. It's Ridley.
For me, I like Spears and Okongwu better based on their salaries.
So do I, but I do like all. I like the Titans are probably the most important team to me today.
Good fucking luck. That sucks.
At this point, whatever. It's the Jaguars, man. I know, like we didn't really mention that. The Jaguars are out of control. That secondary is atrocious. I don't really like a lot of. I'll just save some time. I like Brian Thomas if you want to run back or just to play him. That's about it.
Yeah. Also, I laugh at that, but I also have a ton of Spears. I think I have 25% of Conqueror too. Like I have a lot of these guys. I do.
I'm not super concerned about the rain, no.
You can't tell me when you say something like that your slate's going to be determined by Tennessee, that it doesn't feel pretty bad.
Yeah, it feels bad. I mean, again, is the whole slate determined? No, but Tennessee needs to play well today. They better put up some points.
The old 2-14 ATS.
It's more on me. Like, I don't understand how I never go into the week thinking I'm going to bet them. And on tails, you can check the tape. And by the way, stop on over to our marketplace. I dropped that bet, and it's just like, again, I got to the Titans. And again, they're winning. And then again, they don't even come close to covering. It's insane.
Yeah. Didn't they lose this game to... No, wait. Yeah, didn't they lose this game to Jacksonville the other week when they had... I swear they had 15 plays inside the 10-yard line.
Oh, it was that one where... Oh, it was like, man, Ridley had 8 red zone targets, but they weren't because Levis was throwing the ball into the stands, and they were like, well, Ridley's the closest guy to him. Let's give him the target. Yeah, that was a bad one.
That was it. Yeah, so people asking about the weather. I heard you mention that before I cut you off. My fault. I'm looking at it now on the radar too. Yeah, I'm not worried. Plus, it's rain. It's not a monsoon. And it's not insane winds. It's nothing. Look, some of these quarterbacks with perfect weather, man, you got 10 guys who weren't starting at the beginning of the season. Maybe weather should be the least of our worries at this point, man. I don't know. But yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. I think it's fair to say this guy is just always in play at this point. Him and Mac Jones have a legitimate connection.
Yeah, no, he's a big time player. And yeah, he's just in play. Simple as that. If you need a receiver in that range, don't hesitate. If he pops up in your sim runs, I'm not going to manually boost him down or anything like that.
Fade Bretton Strange and all in the backfield.
Yeah, not for me.
Okay. I guess the only other thing I'd throw out there, we got plenty of time here, 2 games to go. 8 games, super weird, man. Would be like a Parker Washington. He's not going to excite you. I get that, but the guy's going to be out there, with no Kirk, with no Gabe Davis, no Evan Ingram, just from a target share perspective. He is going to be out there almost 100% of the snaps. Back-to-back games with 6 targets, 12 targets against Houston. I don't actually think at 4,200 that he's insane if you need some salary saving.
He's definitely not insane. His biggest knock, it's not his fault, is that there's so much value everywhere that you don't have to go to him if you don't want to.
Yeah, sure. I'm just talking large field stuff where a lot of people are going to kind of congregate around the same value.
Yeah, it's more like if you're like, I just like can't play these Saints guys. I don't want to do it, and I don't want to play Wicks. This is it's just another option for pay down wide receivers. So he's the type of guy I will do nothing with. If he shows up in my lineups, I will not 1 second hesitate to play him. And if he doesn't, I don't really care.
Right. Josh Gillum said it's not cold in any game this week. Kind of weird. I thought the same thing when I was looking at this the other day. I was looking at the forecast earlier in the week. You've got games that are on the west or in the East Coast. I'm in, I'm in the suburbs of or Bucks County, Pennsylvania. 61 degrees here today, Ben.
It's raining here.
Yeah.
But that just shows like this should be snow, but it's not.
53. Usually a game like this in Buffalo is just straight frigid. 53. That's actually a windy game if you're worried about weather. All right, 2 games to go. Miami and Cleveland, let's talk about it. Before we get to this disgrace of a game, if you guys ever were interested in using our tools for the sims, the single line, man, I was building out some fun lineups with the single lineup sim today. And a lot of times I'll use the actual sims to get a baseline to see what exposure. Right, you do the same thing, and then start building them out in the single lineup sim to get a little bit different. What a way to get different too. If you're not trying to, just like you could still just find the exposures and then kind of craft them into what you want. The player projections, ownership, boom bust tool, top stacks tool. We've had, was it 4 milli makers now this season for the Stokastic users? Three or four?
Yeah, 3 or 4, and I have a feeling decent chance there's going to be at least one added to the pool today, just because there's some monster tournaments, and I know a ton of our people are going to be using these tools to put their lineups in there, and why not? I mean, it's been awesome. But it's funny, I'm not saying I invented that by any stretch, but more and more people are doing. I've been doing that for a while now, where I run the sims, I do all that, then I start taking some of the lineups and I put it into the single lineup simulator and I start to tweak it. I throw in a 2v2 and see if I can just boost the ROI a little. And I use that for my single entry or my 3 max, some of that type of stuff. I really like that because you're getting kind of the best of both of it. So yeah, I mean, you guys have seen it. If you haven't seen the testimonials, the results speak for themselves. It will make you a better DFS player. That much I can promise you.
Yeah. SC in chat said, use the tools. By the way, these are unsolicited endorsements here.
And he just gifted 10 memberships. Very generous.
Oh, good stuff. Thanks, man. He said, use the tools. It'll change your life. LOL. It can only improve your game straight up. Yeah, I love hearing that stuff. But you can join any sports book that we have a partner with. Like, see it in the description. Join any sports book, gets the Stokastic Sims free. If you click that link and just click claim offer on any of the links on the books down there, if you just click claim offer and deposit, it's like usually minimum deposits, 10 or $5, depending on the book. Place your first bet and take a screenshot of your first settled bet and a screenshot of your welcome email from that book and email us at support@stokastic.com. You're getting the entire month of core for free. It's $100 value. If you did that on 4 sports books, or if you're in a non-legal state, 4 pick'em sites, you'd get 4 months. Like, you could get NFL, you could get NBA, you could get college football there's still a ton of bowl games coming up, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
College, and you could get MMA or whatever, or PGA, right? PGA's coming up, or
starts Thursday.
Starts Thursday. You could do 4 books, spend maybe $25, $30, get all of your bonus bets, get all of your match deposit bonuses, and then get $400 worth of, you could have essentially, Ben, you could get Sims Max by just signing up on Sportsbook.
And you're getting value from the books too. They're giving you bonus bets. They're giving you matches. They all have, wrinkles to it, and you want to make sure you check those terms. But man, it's just a great opportunity. The biggest ROI boost, the biggest leak in most people's games, both on betting and DFS, is they're not taking advantage of the promos, the baselines to get themselves in good situations. Obviously, at the end of the day, you still need to connect the dots in the tournaments. You still need to cash the tickets in betting. But if you're getting boosts and you're getting promos and you're getting tools and you're not having to really get anything in terms of acquiring them, you're ahead of the game. You could have months of runway with our tools, which I think most people would agree is a significant value. just by signing up on any of these partners and then getting access to them as well.
Hell yeah, man. Links down there. Just
Good
follow the
stuff.
steps. Click claim offer and then follow those 4 simple steps. You'll get locked in to whatever you guys are looking for. We also have the deal going on the Sims NFL Max as well. If you're someone that's looking to get the highest level, 10,000 Sims, good stuff. All of it's down there. All right, Miami and Cleveland. I'm actually surprised that Miami's still more than a field goal favorite here. It sounds so gross. I was considering betting Cleveland because the absence of Tua, assuming he's out, I know he's doubtful, but he's trying to play. Dude, we saw what this team looks like with Tyler Huntley.
Well, we saw, you remember that game?
Which one?
Well, the one that comes to mind for me was I was thinking, how the hell did Tennessee ever cover any spread?
Tennessee did cover, and
that's why.
They
smoked them.
You know what that was? That was the Monday night doubleheader.
Yep. Oh, I remember. Trust me. I remember.
What do you mean? Why do you say it like that?
Because I bet Miami.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because I was like, you know what? Mike McDaniels, he's going to scheme this up. Spoiler alert. It didn't work at all. They were awful. And
they can't scheme anything up without Tua unless they figured something out behind the scenes that we're not privy to. Yeah,
it's bad. So yeah, this is an interesting situation because I will say, despite all those very real concerns, he's $4,000. $4,000. Now that is not pay down. That's as low as it gets. I'm not really sure what you do with that though, to be completely honest. I'm going to mess around with this because if you do go like skinny and you go like him and Malik Washington or something, you can basically just play whoever you want.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm good.
Okay. I think I'm good too.
Cleveland's defense isn't actually terrible. It's like the offense is bad, but this just feels like a war of attrition in this game. This doesn't, you know what I mean? Sure, Miami might have the ball a decent amount, but I'll take my shot. I'll take the risk of not having this, Ben. I don't really know what else to say. I've thought about it. The Sims were giving me a little bit of Huntley. Jalen Waddle's not expected to play. So at least if you're going to do it, you could go Huntley, Hill, and Achane and just cover all your bases. You said Washington, sure. But with Waddle doubtful, you're going to see very concentrated target share. I still think Cleveland has good corners. I still think the run defense, at least at home, is better than you would think. I'm good. I've seen enough out of this. There's other cheap spots I can go to today.
I mean, yeah, I'm not pushing back on that. It's pretty ugly. It's a low total, even amongst low totals, and it's in Cleveland. So yeah, I am Mike McDaniels. I used to think that was a compliment, but I hope you mean only in looks now, because I would hope I'm maybe a little more dynamic, because that guy I thought was a genius and not a fan right now.
Nah, not most people aren't. Cleveland, is there anything you want here? Sprinkle on a Jerome Ford or anything? I don't want the passing game with DTR.
Nope.
Okay. So no Dorian Thompson-Robinson for you?
Nope.
I've got to make sure. I think Ford's okay if you're getting, a little bit of him. That's fine.
Ford's in my pool for sure.
Green Bay and Minnesota, fun game to close it out with. It's 49-point total here. I'm getting a lot of Darnold, and I'm not surprised by this. Green Bay is a good defense, but this is also just one of these spots that if it ends up shooting out, you're going to want some. I have 13% Darnold right now. I have 17% Jefferson. I have not a ton of Jordan Addison, but I have a good amount of Hawkinson. And then on the other side, with Christian Watson unlikely to play, I'm getting more Dontavian Wicks. He's probably the best overall, sub 4K value on this slate. I'm getting some Jaden Reed at sub 6K now. So this is just one of these games where I'm just all around, I'm getting to this game. Tucker Kraft, I even have some of.
Definitely that type of game. Another great super chat etiquette from Goody, who invented super chat etiquette, was saying like super stacks from this game. I think this is clear. The total confirms that as well, because it's not only is a healthy total, it's a competitive game. Great game to super stack if you're going to go full onslaught, and 8 games makes that a little more reasonable. So I have zero issues with that. This is more anecdotal, but earlier in the year, Jordan Love had a couple games. One in particular really helped you, where the game unraveled, and you had a big week because of that, where he just started throwing it. I believe it was actually Minnesota the first time.
Yes. Yeah. It was.
He had 54 attempts in that game.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And just when you have that type of volume.
Wasn't that the Tucker Kraft game?
It was Jaden Reed also had a monster game.
I thought Kraft scored twice too. Maybe not.
But just it just shows this is the type of game that could get up and down, back and forth. And then you look at the other side. Jefferson's in a kill spot. Addison has just been unreal. I still think Hawkinson has utility. This is a great game. The best game on the slate.
Yeah. And somebody asked me, am I getting, okay, so he had one touchdown in that game. Am I getting to Aaron Jones? Yes, absolutely. I have a good amount of Aaron Jones right now.
With Darnold?
I'm not opposed to it. I won't change anything if I do. Yeah, I think Jones is in a good spot. Mostly the price point there, 6,200. I don't care that he's facing his former team. That already happened. I don't think they're going to try and get him extra work or touchdowns. This game is vital to Minnesota. Okay, this game, just keep this in mind. This is not just a game that's of relative importance of playoff seeding. If Minnesota wins this game, Ben, then they force next week a showdown to decide the 1 seed with Detroit. But whoever doesn't win that game moves from the 1 seed and a bye and home field advantage throughout the playoffs to the 5 or 6 seed.
Massive. I mean, again, these are our high impact, high leverage games for sure.
Yeah. The reason I'm not even spending a ton of time on this game is because I think overall it is just the one that you could get to any piece and feel good about it.
I totally agree. So the one fascinating thing, though, I'm not really getting to the absolute monster beast of Josh Jacobs, who has been destroying slates.
Yeah, I hear you, but for me, I still like Barkley and Taylor above him. But that's a great call out because I didn't even mention that yet.
But he has been unreal, and the volume he's getting is ridiculous. Right. If you look, he had 13 carries against New Orleans. That game was a joke. They held him out. He had against Seattle. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. I think he had like 10 straight carries. They are feeding him the ball at the goal line. Having said all that, though, he's more on the outside looking in for me, and it's just a price thing.
So he's not a Megamind genius play?
I don't think he qualifies just because he's too good for that. But he is interesting if he gets lost. I mean, what a stupid person to get lost considering how good he's been, but I prefer the pass catchers and I prefer Aaron Jones.
All right. And then quickly, just to wrap it up before we turn it over to our boys, Matt Gajeski and Eric Lindquist. Sunday night football. Does FanDuel still have that on the slate? There's no reason they wouldn't, right? So let me just pull it up for you guys. They do. So Sunday night, I don't know why, but Washington, Atlanta, massive implications for both teams in this game. I think Jaden Daniels is actually very playable here with like a Terry McLaurin in this spot. Very.
Yeah, I mean, I never say that, but I tend to agree that they're a miraculous team for a lot of reasons. But
Ertz is very cheap too, Ben. Ertz is 5K on FanDuel.
It's a good spot. This is a good game for sure. I think I have more interest on the Washington side. It could be a little messy, and we'll see what the rain does and whatnot. Not super concerned, but yeah, if you're gonna do it, I think you just keep it to the passing attack there.
What about the love of your life on the other side of this game?
Oh, on the other side, it's always, Bijan's just in play. Now he's competing with some big time backs, but you have plenty of salary to make it work. And, the Penix experiment, I don't think we got a real sense of it because they played the Giants, and the Giants are not a real team. So we'll see what happens there. But Bijan has been in play, and he will continue to be in play forever at this point because he's that good.
All right. Well, hey.
Oh, we got a super chat. SC, another generous super chat. Just a friend of the show. Good guy. Thank you.
Excellent analysis, guys. Love the show and appreciate all you guys do. Thanks, and let's get it, fellas. Hell yeah, man. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day, guys. Stick around. Matt and Eric coming up next. And as always, you want to check out Portfolio EV, OddsShopper. Come join us. Come join us. Start winning money with us. Hit us with those screenshots as well. It's down there. Link in the description. Same with you want to get access to all the Stochastic tools. You could do it through the link join. You could do it any way you want. ton of ways to get access to the tools, and always feel free to hit us up, whether it's me in the DMs, Ben on Discord, wherever you want to find us. Hit us up with questions, whatever it may be. We got you. Anyway, let's take something down. Let's have a day, Ben. What do you say?
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good. Let's have a day. Appreciate everyone. Don't go anywhere. Again, more content coming here. And good luck. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.
Bye-bye.
I know. Let's do it. Don't tell me what to do, Jordan. Actually, you should tell him what to do. You're the producer. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock, presented by Stokastic. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me over at Eric Lindquist. I'm followed on this Week 17 Sunday with my friend Matt_Gajeski. That's not his middle name, underscore, but that's where you find him over on X. How you doing, my dude?
I'm good. The real middle name is Joseph, not underscore, in case anyone was wondering. But yeah, I'm excited for today's slate of games. A lot of backup QBs, which is kind of my wheelhouse. And then we have one great game sort of to cap it off with Green Bay and Minnesota. So it'll be a good one, man. How are you? Are you excited for the games today?
Yeah, I'm excited. Very, very nervous. Vikings fan taking on Green Bay in that afternoon window. I'm here in Scottsdale with my folks here for New Year's, and we are all going to watch it together and commiserate over yonder way somewhere out in the world here in Scottsdale. So looking forward to watching that game with some friends and family. But without further ado, we got a lot to get to here for, well, it's only a couple of games, the lot fewer, the smallest main slate that we've had all season long. And yet, I think these dusty QBs are a massive decision point here if we want to be dusting them off as opposed to the Sam Darnolds of the world in the late night hammer or the late afternoon hammer, whatever you want to call it. Who's the Dusty's QB that you are going to be over the field on today?
I don't know. Still working through some things. Over the field is a stretch because I'm not really trying to overextend myself on any of them, to be honest with you. I don't know, man. If I had to pick a favorite, like out of the real Dusty guys, maybe Mason Rudolph.
Oh boy. Yeah, Mason Rudolph is definitely going to get dusted off by my boy Louie and I. We have a QB league that we've been in for the last 2 years now. We won it last year, which was a lot of fun. We still haven't utilized any of those funds to go hit a golf ball around Las Vegas, which is kind of the goal over the course of the next couple of months. But we need a big week out of Mason Rudolph. Go team. What could be better than cheering for Mason Rudolph and the Titans offense to do positive things and Tajay Sharp to be good chalk? Oh boy, we're screwed.
It's such a hard question to answer because there's almost levels to some of the dustiness on today's slate. Like, are we talking Drew Lock or like Aiden O'Connell, who started a lot of games this year? So it's almost hard to decipher where to break the tier for a question like that.
It's gross. I mean, Tyler Huntley is probably the main conversation piece that I need your help with. He's 4K. He's going to be playing in what could be brutality weather-wise, but there's a couple of weather spots that we have here. There's some rain down yonder way in Florida, so be paying attention to that for those games specifically. But actives and actives, we saw Curtis Samuel inactive. Anything else that stood out to you? Because not really for me.
Not on it as usual. It's not like immediate inactives. There's a lot of stuff that changed late in the week that we weren't expecting. The Tajay Spears stuff, the Joe Flacco stuff, all of that was late, like after Friday night, but we've had it for a while now to digest. I feel pretty good, feel ready.
See, what sucks is that yesterday I built out a bunch of lineups and, was traveling and I felt pretty good about what I was looking at. And then Tua all of a sudden is doubtful. And I felt terrible about everything that I'm looking at because Devon Achane was a complete send at that point in time. A lot less of a send here with Tyler Huntley, but let's get into it. We go position by position on this show. And we're going to just start here at the quarterback one where Josh Allen exists at the top end. He's been ridiculous in terms of ceiling, but pulling very little ownership here today. And it mainly comes down to like where else we want to utilize those funds. I think the running back spot, considering Saquon Barkley is hunting accolades, even though, he basically sat out against the Giants in a fourth quarter that could have probably put him over the hump and we wouldn't even be talking about this. But when you don't have Jalen Hurts out there, it definitely hurts the offense, but probably increases his rush expectation. So that'll be an interesting thing to be paying attention to. As we continue down the board here, though, at quarterback, there's not a lot that I want to be spending up for, and there's not really a lot to spend up for. So let's just kind of hold it there. Josh Allen, your interest level for him today?
It's pretty low. This game is nearly meaningless. They're like 95% to get the number 2 seed. They would need some real craziness for that to change. And I don't think the MVP stuff is really that important for Josh Allen and the Bills. Like they need to actually win some playoff games here when it's all said and done. They've been very bad in the playoffs for a long time now. So I just don't really see the need for them to go out and play with a game plan that's going to show anything for the future. And when you have alternatives on the slate that we want to get to, largely at other positions, he's a hard name for me to click.
Yeah, I'm getting to right around the field of him, though. So I'm playing 150, right around 6%. I think he's got such an undeniable ceiling with what he can do with his legs. And then I do think Dalton Kincaid's at least interesting for skinnies, where I'm getting towards somebody that isn't down in the massive chalk level, sub 4K. If I'm going to be playing some massive chalk around it, playing a lot of Bucky Irving lineups, playing a lot of Tajay Spears lineups, I think there's a world where I end up right around this 6% number when it's all said and done. So again, there's that massive question that I'm going to ask you about Tyler Huntley. We'll figure it out together if we can, but otherwise, Josh Allen's just somebody that's going to kind of stand pat there in my lineups. But now's where it gets interesting because Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are very popular on today's slate. And you can play, obviously a little bit of both of them here, but I do think Sam Darnold, when it's all said and done, ends up insanely popular here on today's slate. That makes me a little bit nervous, but there are some good things that are going towards him. One, you have insane pass catchers in Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. Two, you have Kevin O'Connell as your head football coach. And three, there's going to be no Jair Alexander out there, which I think is really, really helpful when you talk about the ceilings of these wide receivers and the ceiling of this football game. He hasn't had the best year by his standards, but when it's going to be Valentine and Nixon out there on the edges, I feel pretty good about Minnesota just finding success in the air. I think we'll get to the Aaron Jones question mark here too, but I definitely side with more of the chalky Darnold side than I do Baker Mayfield. Not even because of weather. I do see that there's some trace rain there. Chance of thunderstorms, could be raining a little bit towards kickoff and beyond. But Carolina, they've raised the ceiling of absolutely everybody. I just like Bucky Irving so freaking much that it's not showing up as much as I was expecting here to get to Baker Mayfield, the guy that I'm sadly underweight to here at the moment. So what are you doing with these two insanely chalky pieces?
I'm probably going to end up playing them both. Two context things I want to bring up. First of all, we have fewer games on the slate. So naturally, ownership is going to be a little higher, especially on the chalky pieces. So when you see like a 20% Darnold, I wouldn't absolutely freak out. Generally, the highest owned QBs are coming in around like 15% on full slates. We just have fewer options. And when you have 10 backup QBs, that's what you're going to get. I'm fine with Darnold. I have no issues playing him. This is the game environment I'm easily most interested in. Right now, his ownership projection doesn't scare me. If he's at 20% on an 8-game slate, it's completely fine with me. You mentioned all the matchup stuff. There's nothing to be scared of with Green Bay's defense. They have played better recently, but it's mainly schematics. I think they're still
matchups too.
Well,
New
when you
Orleans
the Saints, but I mean they played games before that too that were a little more difficult.
Third most difficult strength of schedule. So I didn't mean to besmirch it. I see people saying I'm a homer in the chat. You damn right I am. Let's go Skull, baby. I don't care. It's the first thing I've had to be happy about in my Minnesota sports tenure ever. So chill.
Well, the Packers also have lacked pass rush for a lot of the season too. They've been manufacturing a little more recently. All this to say, Darnold has been playing at an awesome level. He has the pass catchers, the stackability. If 20% is accurate, I'm not gonna change this whatsoever. Baker, I'm fine with as well, and it's largely just you're playing Carolina. Mike Evans is chasing records. McMillan's played a lot better recently. They're day 2 rookie, and now that could even be more condensed without Cade Otton and Sterling Shepard. So there's very clean stacking partners there. That game has some back and forth. If you just give me the choice, would I rather be a little bit overweight to these good QBs or go and play some of these UFL level guys? I'm going to choose to be over to the actual good QBs unless there's a reason not to be.
Well, let's talk about two of my favorite tournament quarterbacks here. So obviously Sam Darnold, I'm going to be eating a majority of my lineups, 30% currently Sam Darnold stacks. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and of course, Aaron Jones as well, who can have a decent enough pass catching role, especially at the goal line. We've seen a lot of those fade routes to Aaron Jones this season, which is always fun. But I look at this next tier of quarterbacks. Jordan Love at 6,200. As much as I don't want to say it, he looks incredible to me for tournaments when you talk about Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, more of a consolidated target share there. Jaden Reed, obviously the upside guy as well. Even though he's not on the field as much, gets shored up when you get Christian Watson out of there for sure. Tucker Kraft, more of a contrarian play there at the tight end position. And then I really don't want to do it, but I'm playing Aaron Rodgers, 5,700 here going for the Jets going up against Buffalo. Do they have anything to play for as a team? No. Does Aaron Rodgers have things to prove because he's Aaron Rodgers? And we know, I saw before the show Garrett Wilson talking about wanting to be traded, yada, yada, yada. I don't really care. I just know Devontae Adams is active today. Devontae Adams record chasing alongside his boy Aaron Rodgers. And we've seen 4 consecutive games where he's trying to get him a job here with the Jets yet again, or a team elsewhere. Saw Cleveland as well pop up on that news alert. I think he's an interesting contrarian piece that I just haven't heard a single soul talk about. I get it. But Buffalo's defense has looked pretty brutal to me. I know a lot of it was on turf 2 of the previous 3 weeks, but even against New England, a little bit spotty, not exactly the days of yore here for the Buffalo defense, when they were kind of holding down the fort as the offense was finding its footing. The offense is firing, and I don't trust that defense. How do you feel about Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, or anything else 5K above that you really want to be getting for tournaments?
I like Jordan Love a lot. If you ever saw Green Bay have a positive pass rate over expectation, they could absolutely go nuclear at their prices, expecting Christian Watson out again. But we just have never seen that. Literally 0 games with a positive pass rate above expectation. I think they were neutral in 1 game. It was actually this Minnesota game, if I'm not mistaken. And there was some noise. Obviously, Malik Willis played some games. But it's a team that very clearly wants to run the ball. With that said, they got absolutely slaughtered, at least in the first half, against Minnesota when they met up the first time. if you get a script like that, you might see Jordan Love push towards the ceiling in pass attempts. He threw the ball 54 times in the first game, and it's crazy. They still didn't have a pass rate that was positive over expectation. But we need a game script like that because I've been playing Jordan Love almost every single week, and they just have no interest in him throwing the ball. So you need a game script like that. But fortunately, you look at, Vegas, that's actually more likely than it's been in any other game this year. So with everyone on Green Bay cheap except Jacobs because of how they've played recently, I'm definitely willing to throw some darts at this. I didn't get any Aaron Rodgers in the Sims. I have no problem with that. He's awful. So I'm definitely not going to change that. And that's about it for the two guys you mentioned.
No, I feel like I've brought up Aaron Rodgers on way too many of these shows, and it just kind of is what it is. When you see a low-owned Aaron Rodgers, knowing he's going to go out there, he's thrown it nearly 40 times 3 of the past 4 weeks. It's definitely brutal. Obviously, you expect them to be trailing, so maybe airing it out a little bit more. It feels just like a spot where there's just kind of, he's fighting for a job, I suppose. I mean, he doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to be the quarterback of an NFL team. We know he's competitive and he's got documentaries about him. I don't care about that stuff, but I look at the data, and when you have a stack partner like Devontae Adams, and then you could double it with Garrett Wilson, 6,100, Tyler Conklin probably not going to be going crazy with it, but we'll have a little bit at 2,900, cheaper than some of those other chalky guys. Had 7 targets last week. I'm willing to roll the dice there in tournaments. Nothing crazy. Again, like 7% of him it's still overweight. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. He's 2-3% owned, depending on where you look. So I feel pretty good about that one. Let's get down into Aiden O'Connell, Mason Rudolph. These are also guys that are popping a little bit here, less so in the Sims now with Tyler Huntley's existence. And obviously I really, really want to get to that conversation piece, but anything else lower 5s that you're going to fire up?
Yeah, I mean, these guys, some of them project just better than Rodgers straight up at cheaper prices. And the ownership is not different. And in certain situations, it's lower. So yeah, I'm definitely playing these guys over Rodgers. And the only difference is the name on it. Like Aaron Rodgers has a name, and Aiden O'Connell is going to be starting in the UFL next year. But the difference is, like, the totals are not vastly different between these teams. The matchups are honestly better for some of these QBs. I don't really think there's much to break down. I mean, like, you go between these QBs, it's like, okay, Joe Flacco's playing the Giants. Why does he project better than Rodgers? They're going to throw the ball more than with Anthony Richardson, and they're playing the Giants. Why does Rudolph project better? They're playing the Jaguars. Why does O'Connell project better? They're playing the Saints. So to me, it comes down to, I'm not sure why Rodgers is more expensive than these guys. Similarly owned at a lower projection. So yeah, I have a ton of interest in these guys. I think just prioritizing them, for me, it's going to be Flacco, even though he's not like in the 5K range. I'm just going to go below it because it's arbitrary cutoff anyway. Against the Giants, so the stacking partners are priced as if Anthony Richardson is in, and now you have Flacco coming in, elevating the pass rate. It just makes a lot of sense. He is owned, so you're going to have to navigate that. But luckily, there's about 4 guys you can play. You can include Jonathan Taylor in your stacks, too, to sort of siphon off some of that ownership. Rudolph is pretty easy to stack. Chig has been extremely involved recently at tight end. You still have Calvin Ridley as kind of an alpha receiver. And Westbrook Akine, the guy that was scoring touchdowns at an unsustainable rate, is finally playing more snaps, so he's even someone you can include. Like, Vegas is just so condensed. It's like almost the exact same thing as what you get in New York. It's Bowers, it's Jacoby Myers, and then you can just move on. So yeah, even like Kenny Pickett, I think there's a lot of people probably under projecting Kenny Pickett, who projects better than Rodgers going up against Dallas. It's a tougher matchup, but it's either Devontae Smith or it's AJ Brown. And then you can just move on. So yeah, with Rodgers having a name, I would rather play all these no names.
With Rodgers having a name. I mean, the crazy part to me is in the 5K range, the guy who's projected the best in terms of just raw projection is Bryce Young. There's no Chuba Hubbard there. I'm just worried about this Carolina offense really falling flat here, even against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's led to some shootouts here and there. Cooper Rush finding success last week, but I think Bryce Young, if he's going to be pulling 5-6%, I'm probably just going to go to the cheaper end of things where we run into Joe Flacco at 4,900. I think he looks really good for what Joe Flacco is. You get 3 sub 5K Colts. You get Jonathan Taylor, where you could just try to absorb as many of those touchdowns as possible, all through Flacco and JT. Not always a given when Richardson is out there. Anthony Richardson. Almost tried to put Aiden Hutchinson and his name together. I don't know why, but shout out Aiden Hutchinson and his legs somewhere. But Tyler Huntley, 4K. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this piece, but he's our most positively leveraged quarterback on today's slate. We've seen so many times where if you can get to so many of those other upside options, Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, it can be really fruitful to get to a 4K guy who definitely has interest in running. I saw 25.5, his prevailing rushing prop across the industry, but this total has crashed to like 33.5. We've seen weather come in there. We're starting to see Cleveland defense pop up a little bit on the other side of this one. And I just feel like the Tyler Huntley thing, if it's going to work out, it's got to work out through, like a Devon Achane and like short route stuff. But he was so brutal to start off this season, or by way of legs. And I mean, obviously at a 4K number, you got to be interested. How do you plan to utilize him on today's slate?
I'm not going to change him in the Sims. I think a lot of people are talking themselves out of him because of the first game he played with Miami on like 3 days notice when they signed him off the street, and expected him to be productive when, I mean, clearly the guy wouldn't know the offense. He's now been there for a week, so there's a chance he's better. I'm not going to come out here and say that's definite, but he has a skill set that's at least interesting. He's like similar to DTR, where he's going to run a little bit, and then I'm not sure what he's going to give you as a passer. It really comes down to how much you think he's improved within the offense, like a complex offense, a timing-based offense, but also he's a lot older now than when we've seen him at like previous stops. So you shouldn't be getting more than like a handful of lineups with him anyway, and I wouldn't go out of my way to boost him, but I'm not going to X him out.
Okay. I have no idea what I'm going to do with him because some of my top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my top 10 are Tyler Huntley 4K punts, surrounding it with JT and Bucky and Justin Jefferson and Saquon. And I'm just looking through these lineups, and obviously I like everything else that's engulfed in there, but the Tyler Huntley one freaks me out, especially when you have guys like, Josh Allen that still exist here on a slate. We have massive upside options. And then we have these mid-range guys in Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. We get down even further to the 5K range, and you can still get very comparable lineups. I'm comfortable having more Joe Flacco. Currently, I do have more Joe Flacco by a pretty noticeable margin, where you get the Pittman, Downs, and Alec Pierce. Bring Alec Pierce up into the Sims. That's the one guy that I want to bring along for the ride. It's so hard for him to ever project well, but we know what he does. It's 60-yard bomb or broken play here or there. Alec Pierce taking it to the house. He's had upside with both A-Rich and Mr. Joe Flacco, just had been not healthy the entire season here. But anything else you really want to shout out at quarterback? Because it's a smaller slate, but I still think a very fascinating one on how you construct your lineups.
It's basically spraying these really cheap guys that are all backups, playing a little more Jordan Love in the field, and I'll be slightly over to the actual good QBs like Darnold and Mayfield. Where are you coming in on Bryce Young?
0% right now.
0%. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's so weird because he's the guy we have projected the best. I have 2% in my last run.
That's what I have.
Amended that. I'm glad I amended that. It's just that I'm getting 34% now Sam Darnold in this last run of the Sims here that I've been putting together as we're talking through it. Only 7% Tyler Huntley. That's the thing that's changed the most here between pre-show and the show right now here. We've got 1 hour to go. I'll shore up my lineups, but I did want to kind of leave some room to finagle it a little bit alongside you here with the Tyler Huntley piece, because I just really don't know what I want to do with it still, because once again, I think that there's legitimate duplication issues by playing Tyler Huntley today too. Do you feel that? Because I look at some of these dupes and it just feels like everybody's going to land on something similar playing a 4K Tyler Huntley on this kind of a slate.
Did you check your dupes with your Tyler Huntley lineups?
Yeah, I have 1 here, 2 there, 1 here. It's just kind of strange to me that, on a slate that isn't like a 2 or a 3 gamer, that I would have this much issues with duplication. Plus, if I'm playing this in small field, because I just ran a small field sim here as well, because that's the beauty of it. You get to be able to change exactly what you're looking for here. And for me, I'm playing some small field, playing some large field. I really do want to kind of shore this up here on what I want to do with Tyler Huntley. I've got 4 main lineups. I got to probably roll him out in one here still, but God, I just feel like everybody's going to play this exact lineup that I'm looking at right now. I don't know. It's something that I'm not comfortable with today.
I'm running for some larger field stuff. I didn't see very many dupes there. And I think our sim tool does a great job siphoning them out when they come through.
Sure does.
Like all of the highest dupe lineups didn't actually end up towards the top of ROI. Most of them are negative simmed. So yeah, I didn't run for a small field, so I can't speak to that. But yeah, I guess that when I just went for dupes and sorted by dupes, it is more than you'd think. But luckily, like if you're using the Sims tool, it'll take care of it for you.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to talk through it. Tyler Huntley not allowed within 100 miles of my lineups. Yeah, that's probably the right answer. If we're being honest, ABC, XYZ. Yeah, I feel pretty akin to that. It's a very strange slate for that. Let's just kind of rehash this. So favorite spend up quarterback, 6K above.
Darnold.
Yeah, Darnold by a lot for me. Favorite two under 6K quarterbacks.
I think it's got to be Flacco. I don't feel great about it.
I weirdly do. Like Flacco got thrown to the wolves against like blitz heavy teams for quite a while there. Obviously, the Minnesota game did not go very well as well. Like, I'm not going to say that his schedule lined up perfectly in Cleveland last year because I don't think it did. But at Houston, at Minnesota, or was it at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, at Minnesota, 3 games there on the road in the middle of everything, and then Buffalo. He's also had a little bit more heads up. I think you had Anthony Richardson, who was out for basically the entire end of practice the last 2 days. So Joe Flacco, maybe a little bit more prepared than normal, coming off a couple of weeks off. But yeah, I think that he's probably my number one guy down there, sub 6K. And I'll throw it in there because I'm dusty as all hell. Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to just have more of him. If people don't want to play the Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson combo, I'll roll it out there one more time for the old Gipper. You ready for running back, my friend?
I think so. It's a tough running back slate.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. I feel like you just play a lot of Bucky Irving, a lot of Tajay Spears, but we'll get into that. Saquon Barkley, I think, is the guy that I'm having the biggest issue with at the moment. He's coming in a little bit lower for me in my first sim run, $8,600 over on DraftKings.com today. That's a spicy meatball. We got Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane. Let's just kind of cut it off there. Above 7,500 here. I mean, Devon Achane probably pulling a little bit more ownership than what I was expecting here, right around 9%, purely because that game environment has gone to shit with no Tua Tagovailoa and the weather showing up there a little bit, although I don't care as much about the weather, care much more about Tua being out. But Saquon Barkley, he's in nearly 40% of the field's lineups. Too much, too little, or just about right?
That's what I'm trying to decide. There's like 6 elite running back plays that I want to get to, and you can only play 3 max. So I've had a really hard time settling in on where I want to come in on guys like Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor. And part of the problem is there's such strong value. You could reasonably make a lineup that's not playing any expensive running back. Like, let's just say you run Aaron Jones, Bucky Irving, Tajay Spears, and then you go up and you just spend on elite wide receivers or maybe Bowers or something. You'd feel great about that lineup. Now, there's other ways to build where you do include Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, or Josh Jacobs, who's in I think a pretty good leverage spot. So I'm debating bringing these guys up a little bit, or at least coming in pretty close to the field on them, because I was just getting almost all of the cheap backs throughout the day. I think there's a chance they might get squeezed.
Yeah, there's a chance, but I do think Saquon is probably the guy that I'm the most comfortable being underweight to. Like, his path to destroying this slate, like, what would his stat line have to be that you would be uncomfortable not having him in your lineups?
Maybe just one of his games from this year.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair. Like one of the half of them. Yeah. Like last week, I suppose, like a 30 ball. He puts up 30 today, 2 touchdowns, 150 like he did last week. Would you want to have 100% or 0%?
I would want to be somewhere in between because he's not the only one that can do that.
Correct. That's kind of the way that I feel about it. Like,
yeah, me too.
I think I'm with Kenny Pickett there. Like, I think you'll get more attempts. Will his efficiency go down? Like Jalen Hurts out there, obviously can take away some of the gold line equity for him at times, but I think that's pretty much going to all be Saquon Barkley today. So maybe that helps out a little bit it's just kind of a weird projection to me. And seeing how that stuff changes throughout a week is really, really fascinating to me. I think our dev team is absolutely incredible. The stuff that they're doing in the NBA streets on a day-to-day basis with how much news is going on is outrageous. And, I think in the NFL, we get to have, week-long discussions about slates. And I think that's the real fun of doing these shows. And specifically been doing this show with you for 4 years. It's been awesome because we can see how things change throughout the week. I don't do as many shows during the week as I used to in the NFL streets, but I'm always paying attention to what changed. And I feel like Saquon Barkley's projection going up just seems counterintuitive when the team total is going down, down, down. But I do kind of get it. Rushing expectation, goal line expectation. I get why it's happening. I feel like, he could put up 24, 25, his exact projection, and I would want to have 0%.
Yeah, I mean, you don't play him for his exact projection, of course, especially not at. And our Sims take care of that as well, which is like a huge benefit. But I mean, the spread's gone down 4 points since we got the definitive Kenny Pickett news. They're still favored to win by 7.5. So it's still a pretty good game environment. You remove the tush push stuff, at least to some degree. Maybe you include regular QB sneak projection. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it on the back end. But that's like a direct, very clear benefit to Saquon Barkley. So I think that outweighs it a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It seems just kind of honing in the projection. I'm not worried about any of like the Eric Dickerson stuff. He didn't seem to really care, but
yeah. Otherwise, you'd play him in a fourth quarter against the frickin' Giants. You would have done
they
that
asked
earlier.
him. He didn't want it.
He said no. Yeah, as he should. You want to win football games. You want to win a Super Bowl, right?
The record's fake anyway. No one's ever going to break Dickerson's record because he did it in a one game fewer.
Yep. I was just thinking that too.
Like,
which is why he probably wants to do it now, and then he can just sit out. Like, there's an opportunity for that, I suppose.
I don't want to hear about Dick's record with Bowers. Like, okay, unless he does it this week.
He's God. He's God.
Unless they do it in 16 games, I don't care.
Jonathan Taylor. 15% Jonathan Taylor. Again, this is a fun slate, guys. This is actually a fun slate. You've probably seen me more befuddled on this show than previous weeks. Like, I seem to always have conviction coming on these shows. Whether I deserve it or not is probably, one thing. But I mean, Jonathan Taylor, you also feel so much better about his touchdown equity coming to the goal line. But how many times does Indy get to the goal line? Also, with Joe Flacco out there slinging it around the corners, like, it's going to be better for the offense. I got to think the Giants, like, the front office, lose this football game. Like, do anything you possibly can. And that's got to feel good for Jonathan Taylor out there just bulldozing dudes. So I like him the most out of this next core group of guys. So does the field. But I don't know if I want to play even like 20% of him. Currently, the Sims have me underneath 15%.
That seems low. And it's just like often intuition. It's probably just because of if you build with the 3 cheap running backs, you get better receivers and better overall lineup projections. But I'm with you on Taylor. Playing the Giants is like a dream matchup. I don't know. The pass rate's going to come up for them. He doesn't play in the pass game. But yeah, I mean, can't really draw up a better matchup. He's been getting an awesome role on the ground. Efficiency will be there. I plan on being above the field a little bit on Taylor. I think I'm going to come in a little bit under on Saquon, and I'm not sure where I'm going to be with Jacobs yet for the 3 expensive backs.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be under on Jacobs, Achane. I did not expect that coming into today, but the Achane piece, that is, because I'm generally a stand for him, but I feel so much worse with Tyler Huntley out there, as I probably should. Josh Jacobs, I'm getting so much Jordan Love relative to the field that I'm just going to be going more towards the pass catchers there, it would appear, and I think Josh Jacobs is fine at 8,100 if you're trying to find one piece of deviation, but I think some of the fun deviating pieces come up way on the cheap end. And I'm not talking about Blackshear or Boone or anything like that, but I think there's still some like 5K running backs that we can parse through, whether it's Jerome Ford, Tyrone Tracy. We can cover a little bit of that where I think we could have a little bit of fun. But James Cook just always feels like eternally 5% on some of these slates and then ends up 10, 12%. In the afternoon slate, he was north of 30+% last time around. I did not enjoy that very much watching him go berserk, but that is what it is. We've got ourselves Bucky Irving, who is rightfully great chalk. Rashad White, I don't know if he's sent to the shadow realm, but he didn't get the exact coach speak index on X conversation that you were looking for, as they just completely, obviously saying ball security matters. No kidding. Brees Hall, 6,300. Just if you're trying to make something work, I'm a little surprised to see him 10, 11% owned, but I'm going to fire up a little bit if I'm playing Aaron Rodgers. And then Aaron Jones, more than comfortable playing our boy, but so is the field on this smaller slate. 6K and above. Who are you landing on for tournaments?
A lot of different guys, basically my most owned range. And once you throw like Tajay in there too, that's why it's tough talking about these in terms of just ranges. But Bucky and Aaron Jones are arguably the two best plays on the entire slate. Aaron Jones had a monster workload last game, and they have a ton to play for in this game as they, try to chase the Lions. So you're going to see him playing, like towards the top of where he possibly could in this role. Bucky, he's a little harder to parse. I think you largely get there on matchup because it's Carolina on the other side. But there is some room for improvement with his workload given the Rachaad White fumble situation. I don't really see that. He's out there for like pass protection stuff more than anything else, and Bucky still hasn't been as good as Rachaad in that area. So I don't think this is going to be like full 100% Bucky Irving or anything like that. But even with the split backfield, he still projects like out of this world because of Carolina on the other side. These are two awesome plays. I think it's more of a question of how much to play of them.
Yeah, it's going to be playing a lot of Bucky Irving. I'm comfortable having him be the guy. He's had so much pep in his step here for this Tampa Bay team all season long. Obviously, they probably wish it was Bucky out there instead of Rachaad White at the end of that game in hindsight, but it is what it is. You move on, and Bucky Irving against Carolina, he's going to walk into more of a bell cow type role. We've really seen Sean Tucker sent to the shadow realm here for sure. I feel really good about Bucky Irving here today, and I think the field does too, and I think rightfully so. I feel better about him than I do about Tajay Spears to some extent. I still have a ton of Tajay Spears, but I do think that there's at least pivots in the range that make a lot of sense. Tyrone Tracy, going to be somebody down in the 5K range. Again, the Colts on the other side, really, really bad at stopping the run themselves. And, they're still, I guess, technically in the playoff hunt at 7-8 and still could make something happen there. But I don't feel as though this is a spot to go nuts with any Tyrone Tracy. Just going to be playing a little bit of him there. He's at 5.5%, sitting right around that range. I think Rachaad White is interesting if you want to get away from any Bucky Irving or something happens to Bucky Irving. Probably going to be something that I revisit here in the last, 30, 40 minutes here as I'm finishing out my lineups based on what else shows up for chalk. But I'm a little surprised to see nobody clicking on Amir Abdullah at 5,100. I thought the box score watchers would be out in full force, but that tells you how many people are utilizing tools such as here at Stokastic every single day. Because Amir Abdullah playing 1.7% ownership, I guess, sweet. I'll take a little bit of shots on that here as well. And Jerome Ford going up against Miami. Cleveland defense starting to come along for the ride. He's been getting a majority of that work here now that Cleveland's packed it in for the season and has DTR out there being rolled out. It's more of a leverage thing going up against Miami Dolphins defense than like a small field type situation where I'm pretty chalky with like a Darnold stack and I'm getting away from a Tajay Spears at 5,400. I think Jerome Ford fits nicely into lineups. I think he's a nice contrarian piece. Tajay Spears, I think, is indisputably good at 5,400, but is there anything that you like as pivots off of him?
I don't think there's really a strong pivot. Ford is probably the best one, but you have to go up and find the salary to get him. And even that, you have some form and risk. He had a goal line carry in the last game. I know there was a fumble that maybe consolidates stuff. That game environment's also horrific. And then, I'm not really all that interested in Madison. He's in a timeshare with Abdul. I guess you could maybe talk me into it a little bit. I mean, it's probably just going all the way down to the Carolina backs at that point. Spears is just so far and away the best play in this range. And I don't think there's any direct pivots off him largely because it's more like, okay, price adjusted Aaron Jones, Bucky Irving are way better than the 1-for-1 pivots. But even Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. I would rather just flip the build if I'm leaving out Spears than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I mean, I'm almost 56% Tajay Spears here, so I have a ton of him there. The guys that I'm really not playing, again, are on the more expensive range. I'm trimming off of Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, And that's kind of allowing me to scatter the board in the 5K range a little bit more. Aaron Jones, obviously, we are both playing lots of because it's Aaron Jones and we're obsessed. So there's that. But yeah, I'm trying to get a couple of pivots here and there, but there's not really a pivot off of Tajay Spears, if we're being honest. There might be something to parse through down here in the sub 5K range. And oh my gosh, these super chats are insane. You guys are the best. I will cover that here in a second because I did see CJ up there at the top of the leaderboard again yesterday in the $20. Love to see it. But just finishing out running back here before I'll turn it over we'll do some Hall of Fame goodness. We'll do a couple of other things here as well. But sub 5K, the only guys that really make any sense to me whatsoever are Blackshear and Boone. I don't know which one gets more of the work. We've basically split the projection, 8.9, 8.6. But they're 4K running backs who, if one steps into a majority role or goal line work or anything of that nature, we've seen such improvement from Bryce Young. We've seen that offensive line perform really well for Chuba Hubbard here in recent weeks as well. Chuba performed well himself, but I'm willing to take some shots here. As the college football aficionado, and I know Mike Boone, I don't know Raheem Blackshear. Tell the people about them. Did Blackshear go to Virginia Tech? Maybe I lied. Maybe I remember him there.
Yeah, he was there for 1 year. He's a Rutgers transfer, if I'm not mistaken.
Got it.
He's a pass catching back, a little bit smaller. And Mike Boone has been like a preseason hero for years now. But I don't really have a strong feel on either of them. I think it's probably just going to be a split backfield.
Okay, well, that's gross then. But they're 4K, so that's fun. But I don't know. Just trying to find something down there sub 5K for the people. It's been pretty fruitful in previous weeks. We were beating the drum for Amir Abdullah. That ended up panning out for the people. But yeah, 4K, that's about it. I don't see anything else sub 5K I want.
No, I'm going to keep a tight pool for sure. It's just going to be a matter of sorting them by the ownership. The only real contrarian backs I like are Breece Hall, who we didn't talk a lot about, Jerome Ford, and Josh Jacobs. I don't really have a lot of interest in anyone else.
All right. We've got nearly 4K people here hanging out. Hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell. We've been here all 17 weeks. Matt, myself, even when I was over in Europe, we were putting in that work, Devin. Don't give up. That's a great commercial. But we appreciate you guys. Love to see it here. Let's cover some super chats, though. We got Corey Ballmer, member for 29 months. Jettas and Downs or Addison and Brian Thomas. That's kind of an interesting one. So where are you going? To Justin Jefferson Downs? I kind of prefer that one as opposed to Addison and Brian Thomas, assuming that this is DraftKings.
Yeah, I do as well.
Chris X Xavier Jones, my goodness, $49.99. He gives us a $50 super chat here. CJ cashing again. Tied for second yesterday in NFL for 60K. I saw that. It was awesome. I also tied for first in NBA 2 days ago. 2 60K wins. Thank you guys for the amazing tools. Thank you for the shout out. Thank you for the super chat. But congrats to you, dude. You did all the work. I mean, awesome stuff. J. Ryan Brownlaw, criminal defense, $10. Would you guys rather play Jalen McMillan or Jaden Reed? Assuming that this is DraftKings, they're just getting completely different price ranges. So, in PPR, if you're looking for one to rule them all, one to find them, it's weird to say this, but I kind of prefer Jalen McMillan just for floor, for ceiling Jaden Reed.
I prefer Jaden Reed.
Okay, there you go. Brian Youngblood, $5. Help, please. Lost 2 and have to go to waivers. Flacco, Rodgers, Pickett, Rudolph. Just need 1. Thanks. So we got 4 to parse through. Flacco, Rodgers, Pickett, Rudolph. He needs 1 for his fantasy playoffs. I'm assuming here, it's going to be a tough one. Don't want to say Flacco, but I kind of think we have to.
I think he's the answer.
Oh, boy, that's so wild. What a time to be alive. Wade W, $2. If I'm in a 150/60K entry, how much number 1 exposure? What does that mean? If I'm in
no idea what he's talking about.
150 out of 60K entry, how much number 1 exposure? Wade, I have no idea what we're talking about here, but if you want to just, tell me exactly what we're getting at there, I would love to be able to help you. Nicole's Classroom, last super chat here, then we'll move ourselves on. Nicole's Classroom, $4.99. Half point PPR. I need 2 wide receivers and a flex. Oh, man, the fantasy playoffs are coming in hot here on the show. We got A.J. Brown, Jordan Addison, McMillan, Jennings, Okonkwo. Help, please, and thank you. So we need 2 wide receivers and a flex out of this grouping in half point PPR. A.J. Brown, Jordan Addison, McMillan, Jennings, and Okonkwo.
Yeah, Jordan's going to have to put that on the screen.
Yep. It's going to be, it's so tough. I feel even with Kenny Pickett, it would be hard for me to bench an AJ Brown in half PPR. It really, really would be. He's still got inside of plus 150 to score a touchdown, which I think is going to be better than anybody else on that screen by a country mile. So when you're talking about upside of AJ Brown there, pretty tough to get away from. Jordan Addison, I think, is probably 2, and Jennings is probably 3. I think for half point PPR, I'd be getting away from the McMillan Okonkwo pieces.
Yeah, I'm doing lineups on the back end. If we have 5 options, it needs to be on the screen, or I can't really keep them all straight. So sorry.
That is okay. You know what, though? We can get all the data over to you guys in the data hub over with the Sims tool. And there's an easy way that you can find that all for free 99. Yes, free 99. How is that? It's signing up with one of our 11 partner sites that are thrown up here on the screen by the one Jordan Klein, the best producer in the game named Jordan Klein. I don't think it's remotely close. The other Jordan Kleins are not the same. You got to look over on the left side of your screen for Pick'em. On the right side of your screen, you see Sportsbooks. And at the bottom, you see Rebet, a sweepstakes sportsbook. Awesome opportunity if you sign up at any one of those 11. Plus, there's awesome deals that come along with it. DraftKings Pick 6. Bet 5, get yourself $50 in Pick 6 credits. Bet 365. Bet $5, get $150 in Bet 365 numbers. I mean, we're talking awesome deals across the board at all of these sites. You'll get those in addition to 1 month of the Sims tool. All you do is follow the 4 simple steps that come up on the screen here next, and you will get yourself an opportunity to get one sport for 1 month completely free. Again, free 99. Check out that deal. It's ridiculous here at the moment because the NFL, a full month takes you up through the entire playoffs minus the Super Bowl. In the NBA, that's going to give you a huge chunk of time to be able to utilize the Sims. Not only get familiar with it, if you've used it before, awesome. Well, use it again because you understand the power of that as well. It is awesome time to jump into those streets. So if you guys want to sign up right now for one of those 11 spots, you can get that Sims tool completely free for a month in any sport when you specify that in your email to support@stokastic.com. It's only if you're 21 and over. If you have a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Alrighty, we got super chats. We talked about how you can get the Sims tool free. Let's talk about the Sims tool and what we're getting to here the most at the wide receiver position, starting with the expensive guys. And I don't think you have to look any further than Justin Jefferson, who I've just been banging the drum for here in recent weeks. He got sub 8K out of the middle of nowhere. That was fun. That was short-lived. He's now 8,300 against a Jair Alexander-less Green Bay Packers defense. This seems like good chalk, Matt.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't really know if there's that much to say. Like, the target share is going to be bananas. You can get to him. It's kind of a choice. Like, do you want to play Saquon, Jonathan Taylor, or Justin Jefferson? I think if you were just building one lineup, it makes a little more sense to play the Justin Jefferson side because there's a separation at that position where there's not so much at running back and there's a lot of alternatives. That's where I tentatively lean. And honestly, like, having Jordan Addison play as well as he has recently, it kind of allows defenses, or I guess the offense, to target Justin Jefferson more. You can't just like dedicate everything to him at this point, which was the case for a lot of like previous years.
Yep, he's just awesome. He's Jay Jetta, man. He's just my absolute goat. Love this man so much. But AJ Brown, we just had that super chat in the previous question. I think you're still utilizing him in half-point PPR amongst those 5 options. I can't imagine clicking A.J. Brown as opposed to a Okonkwo or something like that if I'm in the fantasy playoffs of any nature. But A.J. Brown, he's still somebody that's pulling north of 10% ownership. I think Kenny Pickett, obviously, there are limitations for him from a passing perspective that we've seen in Pittsburgh and, briefly here at times like last week in the second half, but has a full week of prep underneath him. And A.J. Brown against Dallas team that obviously defensively still has a lot of their main pieces out there, looked really, really tough against Tampa Bay. Even though they're playing for nothing, they're playing for everything. You're always playing for a job. I hate those narratives. So I look at Mike Evans at 7,500 as, a really good piece. But if you're making one lineup and you're just pretty chalky at the running back position, which is pretty easy to do today, if you're pretty chalky at tight end, if you're chalky at defense, going to A.J. Brown for Mike Evans, not the worst thing that I could imagine doing in the entire world. You're giving up quite a bit in projection, but looking at some ways to get different on this slate, is A.J. Brown one of them here? Because, again, I could see him really low owned in small field.
I think the only way you do it is if you're playing Pickett stacks. Otherwise, there's so many other players that are either at different price points or cheaper. So rather than taking on the gap in projection, which is wide between some of these other studs and just like playing AJ Brown as a one-off, I would rather flip the build with like 6 or 7 good running backs that we want to play, 6 or 7 good receivers. Like I don't want to just swap off like Jefferson for Brown 1-for-1. So it has to be a Pickett stack.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, I don't have any Pickett stacks, but I do have some AJ Brown. So yeah, I have 0 Pickett stacks. For me, it's just simply hoping you find like a deep bomb or two, and obviously you could get targeted ad nauseum a little bit more. Devonta Smith in the slot. There's been some massive upside ceiling games at low ownership for him. It's just, there's a pecking order there. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. I mean, there's just some massive offensive pieces there. AJ Brown is yet another one of them here, but I think I understand why Saquon Barkley, just like most of you do, why he's getting all the ownership that he is. I just think it's an interesting way to get a little bit different. Yeah, I'm not going to probably have any of the Pickett stacks with it, but Mike Evans looks interesting. Devontae Adams looks interesting to me as well, although the Sims got me basically none. I had to boost him. And Aaron Rodgers, what am I actually doing with my life? I don't know either, but 7K and above. Anybody else that you really want to be firing up?
Mike Evans is a player in an awesome spot against Carolina. He's going to get peppered the ball. He's chasing his 11th consecutive 1,000-yard season, which everyone seems to really care about there. So he's in an awesome spot. You can beat Carolina any way you want. So Evans is a player I think that should be at least in your portfolio, largely because of matchup, but also the incentive stuff is just wild for him.
Nicole's Classroom, $1.99 super chat. Again, thank you to everybody for all these great super chats today. Pickett and AJ Brown or Baker and McMillan?
I would go the Baker side.
I would too. But yeah, again, it's just that's going to be a pretty drastic difference, I think, in terms of projection there. And maybe not drastic. Maybe that's the wrong word. McMillan, 10.5 fantasy points. It's going to basically come down to the Baker Mayfield side, north of 20 for sure, as opposed to Kenny Pickett sitting around 14. So yeah, there's going to be your massive gap, I think, between the two of them. Good luck, Nicole. Best of luck to you today. Whew. Let's see. What else we got? Nothing. All right, cool. We continue on our merry way to the 6K range. Yes, I saw that earlier. I always see that. We've got ourselves some interesting guys. And Brian Thomas, rookie records. Do we care about such things? I don't know. Him and Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is 30 yards away from 1,000. He's like 3 catches away from 100. Does he pack it in after that? That would be pretty terrifying. All I know is he's been pretty chalky here in previous weeks, and today, not really there. 12.5% ownership. I get it. There's a world, though, where also in small field, there's a chance he gets squeezed down there a little bit, and I would want to get a little bit more in my life. But Jordan Addison, 14.5% ownership. If you're playing as much Darnold as me, you're going to find yourself onto some Jordan Addison. He has been revelatory here out of USC from the Minnesota Vikings. It feels good to have him on my team. And Jacoby Myers, 13.5% ownership at 6K. Another guy that, it's him and Brock Bowers out there hanging out with Aiden O'Connell. There's nobody else really. No real semblance of a running game with Madison or Abdullah here. Everything coming by way of the pass. A gross, terrible total, but it's indoors. There's always a chance. And Jacoby Myers at 6K, I think is at least interesting, but not as interesting as some of these other pieces. Before we get into the really chalky ranges, who do you like in the 6K range?
I think these two guys are going to be, especially like BTJ and Addison, are going to be like semi-chalky. With Addison, it's just that game environment's awesome. He's 6,300, so he helps you save a little bit off like the BTJ stuff. I like the game environment and playing that side more for tournaments rather than just playing Brian Thomas, who needs to get there on pure volume, which he probably will. It's Tennessee on the other side, and Mac Jones has been targeting him incessantly, especially with some of the injuries in Jacksonville. He makes a lot of sense. He's sort of in no man's land by himself, though, because you either go all the way up to Mike Evans or someone in that range right above him, or you can go down and save salary. He doesn't have a lot of like 1-for-1 pivots in this range. If I'm getting away from these two, it's probably Jacoby Myers as my third favorite in the 6Ks. But even that, I think, is getting a little thin. You're just rolling the dice on him and Bowers. And I think Bowers is just an infinitely better player than Jacoby Myers overall. So that's going to be a little tiebreaker for me. I don't have a ton of interest otherwise in the 6K range outside of the guys at the top.
All right, well, let's get to the very popular guys here, sub 5K. And, well, we'll start in the 5K range. First, of course, Devonta Smith, very different circumstances for him today. Jaden Reed, something I think you and I both have interest in. But my favorite 5K player is not Calvin Ridley at 17% ownership, is not Adam Thielen at 10.7% ownership. No, it is Romeo Doubs at 5,100, who we have seen take over massive workloads at times in the playoffs. The guy that Jordan Love has leaned on here, the 2 previous games from last season. And as we get into crunch time here, 5,100, no Christian Watson out there. Not that he was getting a massive amount of targets as is. I feel more comfortable with him at 5,100 and being overweight to it than I do 5,900 Jaden Reed. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Jaden Reed. I'm overweight to 13% of him, or where is he at? 10.2% now. Came down a little bit. But Romeo Doubs is my main run back of this entire Green Bay game. Dontavian Wicks is going to be very, 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 very popular, and I totally get it. If you're playing Bucky Irving, Tajay Spears, the amount I am, and some of these other 5K range running backs, if you're going to be underweight to the spend-ups, they're at the running back position, you can find yourselves onto a lot of Romeo Doubs, which I have today, Matt. Have you?
I'll be around the field to Romeo Doubs and Reed. I'll be over on Wicks, just as a path to getting up to some of the more expensive running backs. And Wicks has had an awesome role anytime one of them has stepped off the field. So I don't think volume is going to be I don't know if it's going to be an issue for really any of them. The only difference is salary. Wicks being as cheap as he is, the price adjusted projection just pops. It's kind of how you feel navigating that ownership. But as you may have gathered so far, those of you in the chat, there's so many options that it's kind of just leading to some natural diversification on its own. Like Wicks is coming in as our 6th most owned receiver. I thought he would have been number 1 if this had held from like early in the week when we expected Watson to miss, but we got other things open. We got Flacco, which brings up all of the Colts receivers. We got Spears, which kind of brings running backs into play that weren't expected be in play at cheap prices. So Wicks isn't actually that owned today. I think I'll be pretty overweight to him with just normal exposure around the field to the other Packers receivers.
Okay. Yeah, Wicks is still going to look pretty darn good. Again, the thing that changed the most is that 3 guys in Downs, Pierce, and Pittman that would have been 0% owned with A-Rich out there are going to be pretty darn popular. And I think they probably should be here. We've seen multiple times where Joe Flacco takes over a football team, be it in Cleveland or here. And yeah, it was pretty unsuccessful when you got those blitz-heavy teams. You're playing a Giants team that doesn't want to actively win a football game. So I think that that's going to make them look pretty darn good.
You think
Josh
that?
Downs. What?
You think that?
That the Giants aren't trying to win a football game?
I think Dable is. He's going to get fired.
Oh, my. He's going to get fired no matter what. And maybe he doesn't want to do an FU. Who was it that did the FU on the way out in Houston?
I don't know if he's a guarantee to get fired. Anyway, I don't think they're trying to lose.
Or was it in Chicago? Who was it that did the FU on the way out where he screwed over the 1 seed by winning the last game of the year?
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't remember the details.
I don't either. Somebody will definitely know. Lovie Smith. That's exactly who it was. Somebody threw it in. Oh, that was so beautiful. That was the best FU. That's the number 1 way to say FU to your employer on the way out is win a football game that knocks you out of the 1 seed.
Yeah, everything Lovie Smith touches turns to dust. He also messed up the Illini program for a while.
Oh, Lovie Smith. Chris Albers, $10. Bryce has been stepping it up as of late. Is Tampa Bay defense, pass defense, the same as it was when they played in Week 13? You know where I'm going with this. The radar shows the rain will go over Tampa. Thanks, guys. Well, let's cover this one because I think the main thing that's different is Antoine Winfield Jr. is not out there for Tampa Bay. That is such a huge absence and omission from this football team. I can't possibly tell you enough. Now, let me pull it up here. I'm trying to see if he was in on Week 13. It would appear that he was not. No, he was. He was active for Week 13. Week 14, he goes down. So there you go. Just wanted to double check that here, working through it. I mean, Antoine Winfield roaming out there is a lot different than this Merriweather character out of Iowa that, I mean, I just saw him play forever at Iowa with a bunch of those other guys. So I'm at least familiar with him at the safety position. But let's see. Yeah, I think it's okay. The main thing that I have issues with Carolina is the presence of a running game is important there with Chuba Hubbard. I think that that's helped Bryce Young quite a bit. Obviously, getting Adam Thielen back and healthy and developing him has been very important as well. But I'm playing a lot of Tampa Bay without Carolina run backs. I really don't have anything on the Carolina side outside of like a couple of shots on Thielen, a couple of shots on Coker, a couple of shots on those 4K running backs. But we're talking sub 5% on all of them.
Same with me. We kind of got everything muddled in the worst case scenario with Chuba going to IR. Now projecting a split backfield, there's uncertainty there. So I suppose you could boost one if you really thought there was a preference for them. I don't think that. And then Leggett coming back muddles the receiver room, especially with Thielen. It doesn't seem like they want Thielen out there, at least towards the ceiling of potential snaps. Like he's out there for a clearly defined role, but at this stage of his career, as old as he is, he's never going to be like an 85% player. And just having Leggett available sort of muddles everything for them. Yeah, I don't have a lot of Carolina altogether because of this.
Take East James $5 super chats. Guys, you're the absolute best. 25 minutes left in the program. Hit the like button, but also these super chats just so generous today. 4,300 to fill my last wide receiver spot. Who do I choose? Elijah Moore, Washington, MVS, which I haven't thought about MVS at all today, which should tell you something. Tolbert, DJ Moore, or can I trust Lazard? I mean, these are some real dusty options. I got to say, without two out there, Washington probably goes by the wayside. Elijah Moore with DTR, not feeling so good about that one either. MVS, at least it's a dome, and we kind of know what he's out there to do. Tolbert, DJ Moore, DJ Moore isn't on this slate. So David Moore is who I'm assuming he means.
4,300. Coker's 4,300.
Yeah, play Jalen Coker.
I think he's my favorite out of that group, like the 4,300 and under.
I think so too. Like the Tolbert thing makes sense. Obviously, no CeeDee Lamb, but he's like plus 600, plus 700 to score. I saw that a little bit earlier in the week after that news came down. And yeah, I'm trying to think of anything. I mean, the number one option, if you are playing anybody, it's Dontavian Wicks sub 4K. Like Dontavian Wicks is the best option, 4,300 or below by a country mile, I would say.
Agreed.
So keep that, take that for what you will. We have Chris Williams, gifted 10 subs because he does that every single show. He's an absolute stud. Jaden Sampson, $1.99. Blackshear or Abdullah, pray for me. Oh, you shall be prayed for, my friend. I think you just play the receiving game role of Abdullah if it's PPR and just keep it rocking. If it's half point PPR, I mean, I probably still feel like Abdullah either way because Blackshear, we talk about it being a split. I have no idea what to make of it. At least I know Abdullah is going to be on the field. We've seen it in previous weeks now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So think about it that way. I mean, I'm playing against, God forbid Amir Abdullah goes nuts this week. I'm playing against him in my home league, which I have never, ever won. I've been in the finals 5 of the 6 years that we've done this league together. And I'm going to lose my mind if I am 0-5 in the finals. I'm going to lose my mind.
I believe in you, Eric. You'll be okay.
Thanks. It would make for good entertainment, I suppose. Anything that you wanted to talk about sub 4K other than Dontavian Wicks? Because I really got nothing.
It's been a range that's been lackluster all season long. I'm going to check if I have one lineup of Trey Tucker.
I have one Mac Hollins.
I have 2 lineups of Ryan Miller, who's projected to come in for Sterling Shepard. Probably not.
Kavontae Turpin, I have 2 lineups. That's adorable.
I mean, he's interesting if he would ever play more than 40% of the snaps.
He's so fast.
I just don't understand what they're doing. But I mean, I've said that about Mike McCarthy since 2012.
It's so true. I feel like Mike McCarthy is my favorite football coach of all time, mainly because betting against him in the playoffs is awesome. And also when he was with the Packers, I couldn't have been happier. I definitely hate LaFleur because he's actually good at coaching.
Yeah, imagine if LaFleur had just been a few years older and we didn't have McCarthy luck boxing that Super Bowl. The Packers probably would have had like 4 if LaFleur was there.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood, LaFleur. You know what that's from? No, you don't. There's no chance.
No, I don't.
You would like dodgeball, though.
I've seen dodgeball, but like when I was a kid, it's been like a dozen years, maybe.
Dodge, dip, dive, duck, and dodge.
That I remember. That's like the most famous one from the movie.
That's probably the way he would have wanted to go. All right, you ready to go over to tight end here?
Yeah, we're making better time than we normally do.
Yeah, it's almost like there's fewer options and fewer games to have to parse through, and there's like actual good chalk on different spots and things of that nature. Because it's sterile and I like the taste. I saw somebody just put that one in there. That was so good, so good. Anyway, before we get over to the tight end position, I want to at least throw out the Stokastic Hall of Fame friends. I talked about how you can get the Sims tool for free by checking out one of our 11 partner sites. But did you also know that if you download the badge over at stokastic.com/HOF and you download one of those beautiful avatars, you take those, you put those on your DraftKings or FanDuel profile, and you finish in the top 3 of a contest of 5,000 or more without eternal dupes, guess what? You can also get a month of the Sims tool completely free in any sport that you want. Again, you got to send that email to support@stokastic.com after the fact. You got to let it be known. You got to tweet your win to Stokastic HOF, and you can get yourself that money, honey. Yes, 1 free month of the Sims in any sport you want, that being NBA, NFL, MMA, if it's so if you're so inclined to do such. Check it out, though. You go to the link below. Again, Jordan Klein has that posted in chat as well. Check out the Stokastic Hall of Fame. And I also love these rings, these massive rings that Lofty's basically put together here for the people. When you have those really, really big wins, again, it's all explained over on the website. You can get yourself one of those custom rings, and those are super cool there. And I like watching the video play out there from my guy Jordan Klein firing it up there. Kevin Roach, I'm sure we could send like 48 rings to our guy CJ at this point. Unbelievable stuff here time and time again. Love to see it. Check out Stokastic HOF over on X. More super chats quick. Jaden Sampson, $1.99. We already got that one. Orion, $1.99. FanDuel GPP, Flacco lineup, Devontae Downs or Evans Pierce. I like the idea of Devontae Downs a lot.
It's Alec Pierce in the second one, I'm guessing.
Yes, I'm assuming so.
So Devontae Smith or Devontae Adams? Like that's a problem with single names. Like which Devontae are we talking about?
Devontae Adams, it's got to be.
Devontae Adams. Okay, now read it again.
We got Flacco lineup. So Devontae or Downs or an Evans and Pierce.
I think I prefer the first one, assuming it's the right Devontae.
It's like 5.5 reception prop juiced towards the over for Josh Downs today. I think that tells me all I really need to know.
He has a bananas projection, man.
It's insane. Like he looks insane at Sportsbooks. Again,
he should be
I cross-reference all of this all the time because that's my job to do it. But like, good Lord Almighty, he looks insane.
What is his efficient price? Like 6'4"?
6,700?
Yeah, he's so Pittman's very underpriced too. The reason you just don't get as much is because Downs is so severely underpriced. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's not a world where I think Downs isn't a phenomenal play. Like Downs is a phenomenal play. The main thing is that there's so many 5K range players that could absolve, like Khalil Shakir. I think there's a world where Khalil Shakir is just kind of like the pivot that wins everybody all the money today. I think that there's a world where Calvin Ridley, 5,500, Adam Thielen, 5,700, covered that one, although I'll be underweight to it. I think that there's a lot of these dudes. Romeo Dobbs, my favorite, 5,100, but there's so much inefficiency right now with Josh Downs' price and role with what he has for Joe Flacco at quarterback.
Yeah, you're taking a significant drop in projection if you're not playing him in like cash games and stuff. For tournaments, you obviously got to navigate this because there's 3 elite value plays on the slate. Pittman, Downs, and Wicks are all very good. But yeah, I think you have to play some chalk today. Absolutely. Like you just can't build these crazy off the wall lineups. It's just, you're getting up so much projection if you don't.
Yep. 100% agree. But the tight end position is an interesting one because Brock Bowers pulling a lot more ownership than what I was expecting. I thought everybody would be going sub 4K, but alas, we did get guys like Josh Downs and Michael Pittman that look drastically different today. It's just kind of, we also don't need to be spending up for a Devon Achane, for a Tyreek Hill, I think, when you have Tyler Huntley there at the quarterback position. And I think that's just allowing us to spend more of that money over on Brock Bowers, now currently pulling 26% ownership. He's so good though, Matt. How do we possibly get away from Brock Bowers on today's slate?
Yeah, he's an absolute wagon. You have the salary to get to him. He's really the one way you could absolutely bury the tight end position. I suppose Hawkinson might have like 75% of his ceiling. I'm not sure. But Bowers, I mean, when he has his monstrous games, he's just putting the entire tight end position behind you, and you'll need him to win. The like anti-Bowers position is kind of just like, all right, you need him to fail, but then you have to pick the right one. So it's pretty easy to get to Bowers. He's going to be at least a top 2 owned tight end for me, if not the most owned.
He's so good, dude. Like, Brock Bowers is an absolute beast. Like, where would he get drafted based on what we've seen Brock Bowers do this series if we just ran 2023 back, or I guess 2024 draft back?
Probably where he did. Like, all the QBs would still probably go ahead of him that have shown stuff.
You don't think he'd be top 5? You don't think he would go top 5?
He went 5.
Did he went 5?
Yeah.
I thought he went.
Didn't Bowers go 5 overall?
Brock Bowers draft.
Was he 7?
Thought he went further back. He was 13th, buddy.
Oh, then yeah, he would go a little higher. But why was I getting him confused with like the pitch draft?
You might have got him. Do not bring up his name. That is he who shall not be named. He is wasting away in Margaritaville right now in a couple of best ball lineups that I look at, and I'm like, oh God, I need Kyle Pitts to do something tonight. I'm so screwed. So screwed. I do have one really good Tajee Spears best ball team that I think is pretty live for 10K for what it's worth.
Well, I'm assuming all of the QBs that were drafted in the first round would go ahead of him, except maybe Penix, because he's the only one that, and McCarthy. But the ones that have played, like, I still think Caleb would go ahead of him. Whether you agree with that or not is a different story. But certainly Daniel, certainly May, certainly Nix. Then, like, BTJ, Marvin Harrison, maybe. Joe Alt has been awesome. He would definitely be higher than 13, but I'm not sure if he would be top 5.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's on the cusp. It's on the cusp.
I agree.
That's the thing. It's like
freaking Jared
wild
at 19, man. God, this was a great first round, and so many teams messed it up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Welcome to football. Welcome to football. Real fun sport sometimes. I can't imagine there's a harder GM thing to be than a NFL GM. Like baseball, it's just how much money will the owner give me? In basketball, it's restrictive to a place where you can't just like tilt the scales in your favor. The NFL, it feels like the Wild West as a GM.
There's a pretty good first round. I don't know if there's a single guy who hasn't like actually gotten significant snaps and played.
This was a better draft than most. This was a much, much better draft than most.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I don't know who the worst pick is right now.
Your mother, Trebek. Ha, 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 ha. Super chats, everybody. Eric Johnston, $4.99. Evans, Addison, or Jettas, Riley, DK, GPP?
You gotta go slower, bro. Sorry.
Evans, Addison, or Jettas and Ridley?
First.
I agree. The Ridley side, I'm just not there. Skylar Bernard, $9.99. What up, guys? Love the stream. We love you. $100 single entry. Do we like Barkley and Spears combo or Jacobs and Aaron Jones? Thanks for everything. I would not be going to Jacobs, Aaron Jones over Barkley and Spears.
I agree with you. I'm assuming that's a smallish field. So that would, to play the Jacobs side, I think it'd have to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, I play that most weeks. It's like 1,100. That's like the most you get in that, the $100 single entry.
I agree.
Yep. It's a great tournament, great field. And probably shouldn't play in it as much because, again, there's some sharks in those infested waters, but still, it's a great, great tournament. Josh Chapman, $1.99. Rams were trying to trade up for Bowers. Yeah, they should have because Tyler Higbee ain't it. Colby Parkinson ain't it. So that would have behooved them for sure, Josh.
Yeah, they still made a good pick, so it's not the craziest thing. I don't know what you obviously
was it Verse that went number 1 for them?
Yeah,
he's a monster. Yeah,
there's so much like stuff we don't know, like what would have been the asking price. Like there's a ton of stuff that goes into that's just behind the scenes. Obviously, if they could get their hands on Bowers, all things considered, it's probably a good move, but you just don't know it. Obviously, the asking price was too high.
Yeah, it was obviously a price they were not willing to pay. But at the same time here, 1 second, I got to fix this. All right, let's finish out the tight end here for the people. Again, what's up, Jordan Klein? Oh, there we go. Malcolm Revamp, $1.99. Give me 4 anytime touchdowns. You know what? I posted a couple of them over in Tails today. I'm out here in good old Arizona. Let's see. What do I have here? Plus 380. There were 2 tight ends here that are plus 380 that I think are great bets, more so than even like DFS plays at the moment. They're good DFS plays, don't get me wrong, but Chika Okonkwo and Mr. Jake Ferguson, Fergie Ferg, let me love you a long time. Plus 380 for both of those over on DraftKings earlier. I think plus 370, I think, for Ferguson now, plus 380 still for Chig. That looks awesome to me. So there's two of them. You want to give them two more?
Yeah, I don't have the odds. I can't bet those in Wisconsin. I'd be interested in one of the Colts receivers, depending on the odds between like Pittman and Downs, maybe even Alec Pierce.
I bet plus 250 Josh Downs earlier in the week. He's plus 220 now. So
that's honestly not as bad. I thought it would be shorter than that. That's a
yeah, me too.
one.
Especially with the pricing on his receiving props, like across the board. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. Alec Pierce probably the most interesting out of those three now at the current prices. But let's go. Yeah, we'll go Okonkwo. We'll go Ferguson. We'll go Downs. And then just to give you a little bit of chalk rhymed in there, minus 160 over on DraftKings. Bucky Irving, my highest owned running back. Bucky could end up just doing all of the things against Carolina. He is a bad man out of Oregon. So check that out. Thank you so much, everybody, for the super chat. And thank you, Jordan Klein, for catching that one here. Rounding out tight end, though, Brock Bowers, indisputably really, really good. But now everybody's cheap. Jonnu Smith, far less interesting when you're taking into account the fact that they are playing without Tua Tagovailoa. That is brutality to pay $5,700 for him now. But we have TJ Hawkinson at $4,500. Dalton Kincaid, I think, is a really interesting guy and probably my favorite stack companion for Josh Allen in those stacks today. We have Brenton Strange. I'll cut it off there here. We'll get to the sub 4K pieces in a second. Anybody you really like up here, and why is it TJ Hawkinson?
It is him. I think he's the only guy that has a ceiling comparable to Brock Bowers at this point. And I don't even think it's really comparable. It's like if you just asked me to pick a second tier guy, it would be him. Otherwise, the only other player I have in the 4K range is Kincaid, and it's just 7% of lineups. So very small portion. He's been wildly disappointing this year.
Wildly.
And now everyone's back. Like, there was a stretch where players were injured. He was injured himself. So some of those games, it didn't matter. But when they have Coleman, Cooper, it's a disaster. It's so spread.
I'm just getting my single entry lineups in. There we are. And now we can go to the sub 4K. Glazer just put out Christian Watson won't play week 17. That's good to know because we weren't expecting that. I just read it and I thought it said will play and I was going to lose my mind. But here we are. We're just fine. This is where all the chalk exists. Well, other than Brock Bowers, obviously. We've got Fergie Ferg down here. We've got Chig Okonkwo, who's just been awesome in recent weeks. Again, double-digit targets ad nauseum. We've also got, I think, some interesting, like 1-2% guys that you could bring along with your stack partner. Now, Tucker Kraft's a little bit more popular at 3,900, but Brenton Strange at 4K, I think, is at least interesting. I think Grant Calcaterra, at least interesting. When you talk about no Jalen Hurts being at the goal line, like you're looking for that touchdown potentially there. I'm not playing Kenny Pickett stacks, but I do think Calcaterra is somebody that I'm still going to get to like 2-3% of here. And then my real disgusting one that everybody else is firing up to, Payne Durham. Why don't you just turn that over into Tyler Conklin, who can run into double-digit targets at times here alongside an Aaron Rodgers. They're expected to be trailing by double digits potentially. It's like 9.5, 10-point spread in that game. I like Tyler Conklin for tournaments. Do you like anybody here that isn't just those main pieces here, sub 4K?
What's the projection on Conklin? I got 0 of him.
I've got him for 7.4. We've got him for 6.14.
Okay, there's a decent gap between him and Durham. But Durham's going to be hard to project. We've seen him play for one game. I will say, as a skill, he's basically like one of these big wide receivers, like an Isaiah Likely, like a Gesicki. He's not much of a blocker. He played some receiver in college at Purdue. And they're pretty short on receivers. So this team had 4 tight ends active in their last game. So I don't really think there's any risk of them like changing the personnel stuff. Like sometimes, when a tight end gets hurt, they'll bring someone else up that has a different skill set. Maybe they're a blocker, and that could hurt snaps for a player like Durham, who's mainly a receiver. But I don't see that happening. They've kind of showed their card, and now they've lost more players in the past game. So I think he's relatively safe. I still would rather use my salary to get up to like Ferguson or Bowers rather than play him and just take on the risk with a bad player. But he's still my favorite value play. Outside of him, if you're down at the bottom, I think Jordan Akins is interesting without Njoku. Bellinger from New York without Theo. None of them are going to be played in more than even 2% of my lineups, but there's just a little sprinkling of some of these really cheap tight ends down at the bottom.
Yeah, it's kind of a sprinkling. Again, it's a lot of stack companions.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that that's the best way of putting it. There's just good stacked companion guys that you're hoping for that touchdown. And Tyler Conklin ends up being that guy a little bit for me. So wanted to at least throw his name out into the world so that when he wins me $1 million today, nobody can be mad. Or you could still be mad because it's like, why did Eric get $1 million and I didn't? Well, I would agree with you. I probably don't deserve it. 50 badges. Is that 50 subs from SC? No, 60. Bro, you're out of control. Thank you so much. That's obviously awesome for the community, awesome for the YouTube channel, awesome for everybody involved. We really appreciate it. You're a towel, $1.99. I love that name. You're a towel. You guys want to go get hot? Missed my SC thoughts on night game for FD slate. So missed my SC thoughts. You're looking for a little bit of thoughts about Washington and Atlanta. I will repeat, Kyle Pitts, not something I'm interested in for the DraftKings slate, something that I am forced to, at gunpoint, play in some of these best ball final lineups, and I need something to hit because God forbid. So Kyle Pitts, I'll be cheering for in that format. That's about it. Drake London. How do you feel about him going up against Marshawn Lattimore? Because, I traditionally don't care about cornerback versus wide receiver matchups, but I did bring up the omission of Jair Alexander there for Green Bay and how it should benefit Minnesota. I think the presence of Marshawn Lattimore there for Washington, it could be a little bit dicey. I mean, is he even going to be in there? Because, if he's going to be out on Drake London in some capacity, do I even have him in? Is Marshawn Lattimore going to be out today? Yeah, he's out already.
Sure. I'm not playing on
he's
FanDuel.
out. Marshawn Lattimore out. That's going to make Drake London look a lot better.
He's cheaper on FanDuel. He's 7,100, which isn't an unreasonable price tag for him. He's pretty unexciting and he keeps getting hurt in games, but 7,100, I will take a stab. There's some weather stuff in this game, which might just overall make the passing attacks look a little worse. I think you should just keep your eye on that. It's nothing that I'm going to be actually using to make decisions. But I still think there's untapped upside with Penix, so there's a chance it's a little bit volatile, and maybe you're getting a little bit of edge in projection because of that. And everyone else in this game, you could always play like Bijan. He's very expensive, but you know the ceiling with him. I don't think I want to play Daniels in tournaments at that price, but man, with so many backups, if you just like introduce him to the fold, I imagine if I was playing FanDuel, I still would have some just because there's so many backup quarterbacks and you know what you get with Daniels, but he's really expensive.
All righty. We got 3 minutes to go. We should hit on the defense. Cleveland, new addition to the party with no Tua Tagovailoa out there. Bad weather. The total come crashing on down and $2,400 for that defense. I think on the other side, Miami, chalky, rightfully so. We also have a ton of ownership coming in on the Colts. I'm less interested in that one, a little bit more so towards the bottom, going to the Eagles up against Dallas with no CD Lamb, going up with the Browns, obviously just brought them up a second ago. And then I do have a couple of Jaguars lineups that are just terrifying, but it's Tennessee. If you're not going to play Tajay Spears, there's some leverage to be had, potentially something going berserk there on the Jaguars side. Plus, they picked off Sam Darnold a bajillion times a couple weeks ago, and they're not complete dust, even though they are complete dust. Who are your favorite defenses to round out our program, Matt?
The Raiders are my favorite. New Orleans lost additional players. This time it was along the offensive line, which without Max Crosby, the Raiders don't exactly have a formidable pass rush, but I mean, the Saints are literally playing with almost an entire team of backups. It's absolutely absurd right now what they have. So they're 2,600. I think they're very easy to get to. The Eagles playing Cooper Rush. They annihilated him the first time they played. I have the Buccaneers as my third most owned defense. Not really sure why the Sims gave it to me.
The Buccaneers defense? Oh, well, because I think that's a really good shout out by the Sims. I didn't even notice. Let me see. Did I get any? I want to make sure I have some. We got one. Oh, 2 minutes. Great. This will be perfect. Oh, I do have some. Okay. But they're number 7 for me. So they were further down the list.
Yeah, it's kind of jumbled. The Raiders are kind of far and away my most owned. And then it's a lot of jumbling. But yeah, I'm a little surprised by that. I'm sure the leverage is going to be decent. A lot of people are playing the offenses in that game.
Yep.
But yeah, they're not a good defense. It's like a little eye-opening, but I don't change what the Sims give me for defense.
Yeah, because the Sims are smarter than us. But also, I do think that this is a great week to be more spread out at defense. And that's That's kind of what it's showing to me a little bit, especially when you go to the large field settings and you kind of like tweak around looking at some of these stacks. I mean, I'm all over the place on defense. Nothing that's absorbing. Raiders are the highest owned that I was getting earlier in the day. I think it ended up being in my top 5 still. So
the Browns
like that
your
one.
most owned?
It is the Browns, yes.
Makes sense.
Browns number 1. 2,400 again. Everything's kind of changed in that circumstance. Hopefully people built their lineups and didn't tweak it, but hopefully you were tweaking your lineups throughout this show. Hopefully you got some great information from Matt Gajeski, Matt_Gajeski over on X, and myself at Eric Lindquist on X. Matt, week 17, man, playoff week, finals week for a lot of people in the fantasy football streets, but we were talking DFS. We talked it through, I think, ever so nicely. Any final words for the people as we get out of here?
Thank you guys for all coming and hanging out with us on Sunday mornings. It means a lot to be able to do this. And there's a lot of good football coming up yet. Week 18, we'll get into the weeds and have you covered best we can. It's one of the best weeks for DFS. So stick around. We'll have some more fun. But more than anything, just thank you for being here.
I love chaos. And that's the way I feel about week 18 every single time. I'll never forget the George Kittle evisceration of the Rams at the Coliseum, making me tons and tons of money. Thank you so much to George Kittle and company for that one. And for Shanahan force feeding the ball for no reason. Let's get ourselves the heck up out of here. Thank you, Jordan Klein. Don't forget, NFL Live Before Lock going to be coming up to you tonight. We're going to have Matt Bellman and you, Mac, on the case there. That it starts up at 7:30. Is it 7:30 or 7:15? 7:30. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time here on the Stokastic YouTube channel. He's Matt. He doesn't know movies. I'm Eric. I know way too many, and it's not a great trait. We'll see you guys later.